Nice meeting you. Let's get you mic'd up.
Okay.
Did you want a microphone or did you want like a clip-on mic?
A clip-on.
Maybe we should do
I'll
that
do
then.
the mic.
Come,
I'll do it.
Ramya, let me explain this to you. Ramya, all this is just for me, for me. This is where you start off.
Yes. Yeah.
Have a look.
And this is the one that he gave, right? Which okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And
I will be introducing you as well, apart from me.
Okay.
And when I'm introducing you, come over
Okay.
just to say a quick hello.
Okay.
And then I go on to the next one. Calling Padma, calling the D, and then
Okay. And then we go to okay. Yeah. Yes.
on. Hello, everyone. Morning.
Like your power or something? Yeah, that goes like your power. And this goes.
All right. So, before we begin, today, I'd like you all to think of a question: that what is the single biggest threat that you think is facing your organization today, especially the one that you have not prepared for yet? It's a question to get your definition of that problem statement, which is why we are here today at the Dallas Global Security Tour, where you're going to be listening to a wide variety of speakers who are experts in their domain of security. And we hope each one of you would take away some stuff from here, which will be helpful for you in your careers and in your growth. Good morning, everyone, and my name is Praveen Raghavendran. I am the Vice President of Client Relations and Client and Sales at Innertech Americas, based in Houston, but I live here in Dallas, in Richardson, very much. And I'm a proud UTT dad. So I'm here as part of the organizing team, working with Padma and Akshara and the rest of the team, trying to organize this event. Right? I'm going to be your co-MC for the morning, and with me is going to be Ramya Ganesh. She's a cybersecurity XDR leader at Cisco, and she's going to be my co-MC. Ramya, could you please come on stage? Brilliant. So together we will take you through the morning sessions, and then we'll have different people handling the breakout sessions for you all. Okay. To formally open this segment, I'd like to invite Padma Ayala. She's the founder of Seattle Data AI and the CEO of VirtuTech, to share the opening statement. Please join me in welcoming Padma.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Global Security in Dallas. First, thank you to UT Dallas and our title sponsors, Ivy Digital, Gold sponsor, ABL, and startup sponsors for making this day possible for all of us. And special thanks to all our speakers, volunteers, advisors, mentors, students, and each one of you who has chosen to be with us this morning. Seattle Data AI Security has started with a simple belief: when knowledge becomes more valuable, then we protect it. So that's why our events are free. And that's why you should not just take, not just listen to what is being said here on the stage, but look at this room around. Today, we have security and AI leaders in this room. We have practitioners in this room. We have students, founders, university, organizations, everybody came together. So I want to not just attend this event, but go beyond that. And share your knowledge, mentor someone, or and also from Seattle Data AI, we are not just doing conferences, but we are evolving now. We are becoming innovation hub. I spoke to the government, so we are planning to build cyber clinics. I am talking to the
Live streaming.
I'm also
This
talking
is
to
for the
Microsoft
auditorium.
and other organizations.
Okay.
And building real solutions. I keep saying this to everyone. The reality is cyber security is more important than before. Especially AI has opened more threats. While using AI, we have to solve those threats also. So we need to bring those problems. We need, my favorable statement, I always tell this to people. Good olden days, battles used to be fought in battlefields, bravery, soldiers will go. But today, some coward guy sits in a basement and he's hitting the government, or he's hitting the enterprises, or even, individuals, elderly people, you and I, everybody is vulnerable. So we want more soldiers to come out. We want more people to innovate, to work, and to be aware of what's happening. For that reason, we are thinking of bringing cyber clinics where we want to involve all wings of, like I said, government, universities, industry, organizations, and experts. That's our next thing. And if you guys, if you like what we are doing, we are just outside, and please come and, build this with us. Again, thank you for being here. And I'm incredibly thank you for you all becoming and making this event a success. With that.
Thank you, Padma, for those wonderful words. It is now my pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Hasan Pirkul, Dean and the Carrot Chair of Management at the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. At 31 years, he is the longest-serving dean of a business school. A technologist at heart, Dr. Pirkul was one of the few people who pursued a doctorate in information systems in its nascent days in the 1970s. For a world that is enamored by AI, he has been a researcher and academic leader in the area for a long time, making him a person who has seen the evolution of modern-day technology since its early days. However, his biggest achievement is the school that we are sitting in today, a place that he catapulted to the great heights as one of the top business schools in the world. The school, the region, and North Texas owes him a lot for his leadership. We thank him today for supporting and hosting the Dallas Global Security Tour 2026. Please join me in welcoming Dean Hasan Pirkul.
Welcome. Good morning. It is on behalf of my colleagues in the school and the university, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to our campus, to our building. Driving this morning, I was thinking about what I spend my time doing these days. And I realized that, in my old age, after 31 years of being a dean, I have become like one of those guys that are at Sam's Club greeters. So I am doing my official duty today, greeting you. I joke often saying that I am an AI dinosaur. We in the business school, we were the pioneers of IT and IS, my generation. I went through the PhD program in 70s. And business schools then didn't pay any attention to IT. It was finance and accounting, and they were the hot stuff, and we were like these guys on the corner. And I remember I was a young assistant professor at Ohio State, and they hired a new dean who was a dean at another public institution for maybe 15, 20 years. And the guy comes in, and one of my young colleagues made the mistake of asking, what do you think about IS was new, and we were part of the accounting department. We were called accounting and MIS. And made the mistake of asking the dean, what do you think about information systems? He says, well, I'm not sure if it belongs in the business school. And I'm going, uh-oh, wrong place. But anyway, we have come a long ways since then. I was, how many of you know Informs? Informs is the academic organization that's mostly frequented by business school people, but quantitative business school people mostly. And I was the one who created the first special interest group in information systems at Informs. And we created a conference that's now 30 years strong running that deals with IT. So, you know, when I became a dean here 31 years ago, there was no other dean that's an ITIS person in a business school. Guess what? Things have changed. The nerds have arrived, you know. Now there are many business school deans that come from IT departments, which is a sign of, you know, times we are in. So I am so happy to see you all here. The subject is close to my heart. I did in 70s and 80s research in neural networks. And in fact, I had a few doctoral students who did their dissertations with me on the subject. We coined the terminology or the name called augmented neural networks. I don't know if any one of you are familiar with these, but this was kind of the first break from pure neural network to building, you know, more quant techniques and algorithmic techniques into neural networks. Anyway, I have been watching this change and development over time, and this is primarily why we are so successful here at Jindal School. You look at us, 31 years ago when I came, the whole university had 7,000 students. Our school had 1,750. Today, our school has 10,000 students. We have a campus for the school that's 450,000 square feet, 3 buildings combined into a big campus. And the university has over 30,000 students. You know what? It's because we were leading and not following. We were at the forefront of IT and its impact on businesses. And that made us stand out. It gave us a chance. Academia is like car manufacturing. You know, it's an old technology, or steel manufacturing. It's impossible to break into an established industry. There is nothing more established than academia. These venerable universities go back to 1700s, in Europe to 1500s. I was hosting a university from Germany yesterday. They said, well, this year we are celebrating our 500th year, and you know, we have these events. I said, I guess your 500 years trump my 60 years at UTD. So There is nothing more established than academia. And it's impossible to break into this established industry unless you have a different game. And our different game was IT and MS. Business schools did not offer MS degrees except one, accounting. We started offering MS degrees in IT. Today, our largest degree, MS degree, is called Business Analytics and AI. And we had, before the government stopped international students from coming, we had 1,600 students in that program. Today, we have 250 or so. Well, because the international students are not given visas to come, and they are discouraged, rather than encouraged to come. So it is, this is another subject I don't want to get into, but it is going to be a problem for us if it is not already. And you will, in your organizations, you will see the impact coming. So anyway, I am, deans talk a lot. And it is a big mistake to invite a dean to give opening remarks. But, everybody learns this too late. So, anyway, I have no wisdom to share, but I just wanted to be here and welcome you to our campus. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Okay. Our keynote speakers in the back.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Dr. Hassan, that was a wonderful speech. And thank you so much for sharing your journey from a professor in Ohio University to a dean in UT Dallas. And that was a startling number that he just mentioned, from 16,000 to 250 in AI and business analytics. That's just a startling number. So thank you for that, Ms. Dr. Hassan. We have a big line of keynote speeches, very exciting keynote speeches this morning. And I see a lot of curious minds in the audience here. We have Mr. Brad Bonin. So our next, he's going to be starting our keynote speaker. He's the Vice President of Solutions Engineering, leads Cisco's Global Enterprise Solution Engineering organization. In his role, Brad serves as an engineering organization focused on delivering innovation and successful outcomes for Cisco's most strategic enterprise customers. Brad specializes in enterprise technology spanning Cisco's portfolio, including next-generation silicon and networking, AI data centers, factories, enterprise security, cloud architectures, data, and digital resilience with Splunk, sustainable real estate technology design and collaboration solutions. So we have a mix of Cisco and Splunk in this security event today. Brad has spent the past 25 years at Cisco. He's a veteran in Cisco in various engineering roles. He has led engineering teams across Cisco, web, retail, finance services, healthcare, manufacturing, mobility carriers, and telco service providers. He also has led global teams across enterprise, commercial, public sector, and the SMB space. Before Cisco, he worked for Accenture. Any people from Accenture here? Oh, one hand, yes. So he's been working in software development and as a technology consultant. He's currently a board member of DFW's largest homeless shelter, the Samaritan Inn. Brad and his wife, Emily, and their 3 boys reside in McKinney, Texas. He's an alumni from the University of Louisiana with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in business administration and a 25-year CCIE. I would like to welcome Mr. Brad, but I guess he's just gone on a break for He is. Brad, here you are. Very excited to welcome Brad Bonner from Cisco.
Can you hear me okay? All right. Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. On behalf of Cisco, any of our customers in the room, thank you so much for being a great customer. We appreciate it very much. To my fellow professionals that are already out of school, that's earning a living. Some of you might already be retired and here to have some fun. I hope I'll be there one day. I'm really here, though, for the students. So I apologize to all of the working class, but I'm here for the students. I love UTD. Cisco's campus is in Richardson here. We have about 2,000 employees at Cisco. I live in McKinney, Texas. Anybody here live in McKinney? All right, love McKinney. How many undergrads are in the room? Raise your hand. All right, we have a job for you. How many graduates in the room? Or graduate programs? We have a job for you. How many competitors are in the room? No, I'm joking. Actually, seriously, we have a job for you. So I'm going to share with you a couple things. My presentation is really geared toward the students, to be honest. And I'm going to share some things that might seem a little scary. I'm going to share some things that talk about how society, humanity overall, has a bright future if we do the right things. We're going to have some fun with it. I'm not a very serious guy. I love the tech. I love the industry. Like Dr. Perkle talked about, some of us have been in the industry a long time with a lot of gratitude to be a part of it and to give back to all of you and to pave the way for the future generations that's coming. So let's dive in. I do not have a clicker, so I'm going to be back and forth. And I really struggle to stand in one spot, so we're going to do our best. We're going to myth bust AI. It might seem impossible, but we're actually going to do that. We're going to try to do that. We're living in one of the most consequential moments for humanity. And we have the opportunity to shape it. And I really mean that. When you think about what AI has done to not just work and technology, but just our personal lives, the people around us, the people that matter the most to us every day, it is literally shaping the dynamics of family, service and healthcare, how we support each other in communities, geopolitical positions. It is shaping the world, both in positive ways and negative ways. And I don't know about you, but it's an amazing opportunity to be a part of it. And every single one of us, we have a role. We also have a collective responsibility, I believe. What an amazing opportunity we all have. If you're fortunate enough to live through some of these transitions, and I've lived through all of them at Cisco, I've been there for almost 26 years now, or almost 27 years now. When we built the internet, started building the internet, I remember sophomore year in college, sophomores are probably in the room, I got my first email address and I said, what the hell is that? What am I going to do with this thing? It really changed our lives in engineering school. And then building the internet in the early days, it was an exciting time. There's a lot of positives that happened in the world's economy. There's also a lot of negatives that happened. And I remember, to be honest, like this feeling of a little bit of guilt. Like, wow, we're creating such good things. We're also creating the opportunity to do a lot of bad things. And so you have this competing effect of doing good and then the reverse effect of some bad things happening. Same thing's happening with AI. Mobility, wild opportunities in mobility. It was so fun in the building creation of the first mobile era. Cloud, we all lived through other economies of cloud. We're still living through it. The ebbs and flows of client server, everything on premise, everything in data centers, everything going to cloud. And what are we feeling right now? This idea that control is so important in the world of AI. And what's happening is that shift from cloud is now moving all the way back. And we find ourselves living in this world where if I build my entire business around an AI technology that one day gets turned off because of geopolitical reasons or national security, how does that impact my business? Do I need control? That's happening today. This ebb and flow in society has created huge implications. AI is here and it's on us. Who remembers when GPT first came out? You remember the year and the month? Shout it out. It was like October, November, depending if you were like an early user. What year? 2021. 5 years. 5 years. That model, if I gave you that model today, you'd be like, this thing is awful. Like, it's slightly better than Google search. And I remember when Google search came out in the early 2000s. And it was slightly better compared to how it is now. It's astronomically different in 5 years. We're going to talk about that. That chatbot came out in 2021, around there. Created these chatbots for customer service. You know what I find interesting about AI? What's the definition of an agent? Exactly. How do you define the term AI agent? I think there's a million terms of what an AI agent is. Well, there's a million of them living around us. Some of them are running on your phone. They're at work right now on your behalf because you're here and you probably should be at work. Doing some things for you, responding to your emails, probably not the right way. And then physical. At Cisco, I have the opportunity to work with some leading technology companies. One of those companies, I won't name any names today, one of those companies has a room, a very large room, of humanoids walking around, falling down, picking stuff up, spilling things, running into each other, going in circles and learning how to act like humans, picking up things, moving them over, putting them in boxes, picking them up, bringing them over here. They go in circles, do all these tasks, come back to this one spot. It's like a Star Trek beam of light. And this Wi-Fi signal pushes up and pushes down terabytes of data every hour to these robots. They're training. They're training to come to the workforce. And if you think that is something that's happening 5 years from now, you are mistaken. Elon projects 500,000 robots in the next 3 years just by him. And these robots are being trained. They're doing complex things. Some of them are doing surgeries. Hopefully not on me or any of you. Maybe one day. That might be the only thing you want. But those robots and the technology and the connectivity are very real. And they are happening. And it's an astonishing place to be. All right, here's what we're going to play today. I don't think this is the right name. I asked my son. I said, is it 4 truths and a lie? He said, no, Dad. It's actually three truths or a truth and a lie. So I had 5 topics, so I said 4 truths and a lie. And I'm not going to tell you which one's the truth and which one's a lie. You'll have to decide. We'll talk about that. You might want to debate me on it, and I think that's cool too. We can definitely debate it. Okay, first truth or a lie. Training is over. The inferencing game has begun. What is? It's a lie. It's the truth. Okay, I love this. I love this. So if you don't know what inferencing is, it's effectively, non-technical terms, it's the usage of the model that was built. It's putting it to work. Some of you think it's a lie. Some of you think it's the truth. Well, AI agents already consume more computing power worldwide than every human being combined. And I will tell you that inferencing is now consuming more power than training. I'll say it again. Inferencing is now consuming more power globally than the power that's used to train models. So you tell me if it's the truth or a lie. Inferencing is now the game. This is why you're seeing large investments from AI companies into data centers. Not to train more models. They've got that down, and they're doing it. It's the inferencing game. It's the usage game. It's why Anthropic's business is in the hundreds of billions of dollars now. It's all about inferencing and usage. So what does it look like? These little spikes are actually all of us humans doing human things. Typing a question, help me rewrite this resume because I keep getting denied. How can I redo this by the AI machine out there to get selected? That's us in those dots and those spikes. The right side are the agents running 24/7 on our behalf. This is the impact on the internet, enterprise networks, applications, compute systems. So the amount of compute power for inferencing is high, and it'll stay there. It's going to stay sustained. Huge difference between human and machine. Agent to agent. How many people have some type of agent scheduled on a cron job? A schedule to do something for you every day. Okay, that's you on the right side. That's you on the right side. And that agent might drift and say, I really need to get this report done every day based on what's in this folder, and I'm going to run this report, and it's going to drift a little further and say, well, there's nothing in the folder today, so I'm going to create something. I'm going to go find something to create a report on. And now it's off searching and finding other things. And it's spawning another agent to create a report because it doesn't have any reports. So it starts to drift, and you do all these wild and crazy things that happen in AI, and that's what it looks like on the right side. So compute power, inferencing, and agents. Training will always happen, but inferencing is the new game. CEO of AMD said 60% of global AI compute capacity now goes to inference. Dr. Lisa Su just said that a couple weeks ago. 5 times the number of tokens than human users from Open Router. So if I did a task as a human versus asking AI to conduct a task for me, 5 times the number of tokens used. There's a couple of reasons for that. Right now, AI models are not that efficient. They burn some serious tokens. And if you've built an application or asked it to run a model or a database or a dashboard, that thing will churn and create some things that you're like, what in the heck is this thing doing? Versus a human. And it's going to get better, but right now the amount of consumption is dramatically different. From a network perspective for Cisco, we're seeing humans versus agent, 450% difference in network traffic. Massive spike in compute and network usage. All right, next truth or lie. Adversaries don't need frontier models anymore. True or false? Truth or lie? It's true. It's scary. Some of the best models in the world. When I say frontier models, I mean the leading edge models out there. Mythos, some of the newest models from OpenAI. There are a couple models out there that are running at 85% efficacy based on those frontier models. And these models are open source. Download them from Hugging Face. Open weight. What does open weight mean? If I say dog or what's another pet? Dog or cat. Open weight allows the model to predict the next word. If I gave you all the tools to a model and let you change the weights how you want to do for your business, it might be dog or dinosaur based on how you design the model. These models are open source, open weight. You do what you want. You build it, you use it. Anthropic doesn't do that. Right? Sonnet has those models closed, those weights are closed. You follow their rules. You use their model. These models are put out in the open source. There's a new model, GLM-52, came from China. 85% effective rate compared to the latest model from Anthropic. That model's free. That model is free. So your adversary, who we're all against, has that model, while The defenders have our models and the same model, and they're not paying for that model. They are paying for the compute. So the adversaries and the models are real. Let's talk about exploitation for a minute. How many people have been to zerodayclock.com? You ever checked that out? Just go to zerodayclock.com. I think it's a really cool website. They track this stuff. Super easy. If you're working on a research paper as an undergrad or graduate student, this type of information is gold. It's gold. So, exploit, time to exploit from disclosure. So CVE, a vulnerability is identified, it gets disclosed. How long does it take for an adversary to find the information and use it against us? Back around 2021, 2.3 years, 2020, we're less than a day. What does that mean? It's because they have those same models. They're exploiting things at the same time we're finding them. So the race is on, is what I say. This is why you see in the industry and in the government the decisions of regulation. How do we regulate to stay ahead? Well, if one country regulates and another country doesn't, what is the implication in the AI race? Those types of discussions are happening around the world. This exploitation is very real. Cisco sees this every day. Here's another example, just for reference. 2021, projected year with median time to exploit crosses each threshold. 2021, we crossed a year, so it was less than a year. What I find fascinating is in 2026, when Mythos came out and GPT dropped their latest frontier model, it was a week, quickly became a day, and now we're in minutes. Every day at Cisco, our threat agency, it's called Talos. We see nation-state attacks on our customers around the world every second of every day. It doesn't stop on the weekends. It happens every single day. If you're one of our customers, you know this. And so we have to stay ahead of the game. Cisco applies AI just like everyone else to stay ahead of the game. And I will say, for the most part, we've been successful. But as an industry, we have to change. We have to change how we handle and react to these threats. No longer do we have a year to plan out upgrades for patches to fix the old days of Microsoft Windows coming out and you have a patch and you're like, I'll get to it in a couple of years. Those days are gone. So we have to change as an industry. We have to change from a school perspective too. What we learn, how we develop software, how we develop security to protect it. All right. GLM 5.2 was the model I talked about. 85% of our frontiers model intelligence at 17% of the cost. Almost as good at 17% of the cost. Anthropic's Project Glasswing, Cisco was a part of this when they pre-released this new frontier model to a select number of corporations. Why did they do that? To help us get ahead of the adversary. So we spent a couple of months with this new model analyzing our own software. We open source companies like Linux, open source projects like Linux was evaluated. Obviously, Google took the software and looked at Chrome, and when Apple looked at Safari, all the browsers were evaluated. Firefox, thousands of things were found, and we've been quickly patching. From a Cisco perspective, we evaluated 1.8 billion lines of code, 25 different languages, in 8 weeks. In the past, without these models, it would have taken us 8 years to use some type of machine learning algorithm to evaluate the lines of code that we have over 40 years of software development. The false positive rate on that was only 3%, which means the evaluation of this model said, hey, we found a serious problem. It actually wasn't a problem. It thought it was a problem, but it wasn't. Only 3%. That's an amazing output of an evaluation system. We're now using open source models, not these frontier models like Glasswing or Anthropic, almost with the same output and result. Now we have to buy servers, GPUs, memory, our own data center, so that the dollars effectively shifted from the frontier model to our own data center to run it. but now we're in control, and we're doing the evaluation. So now we're doing both, hybrid approach. But the reality is, in the future, frontier models will always be open source, open weight models will thrive and continue to developing and improve every day. Okay, next truth or lie. You are outnumbered 100 to 1. True. It's probably more like 1,000 maybe tomorrow, 100,000, 1 million. The numbers are pretty staggering. For every human identity in an enterprise, there's about 100 non-human identities in the same enterprise. Some type of agent running, some task, some function. Let me ask you a question. How many people who, if you work for a company, have an employee handbook or some type of code of business conduct? Raise your hand. Okay, we all have it. If you screw up and you do something wrong, in that book, in that code of business conduct, pretty much defines your employment or not employment. What about an agent? What about an agent that's going to conduct some function on behalf of the company that might go outside the company? Posting a blog, pushing an invoice to a third party. How do you conduct code of business conduct for a non-human identity? First of all, you've got to give the non-human identity an employee number. Think about this for a second. You get an employee number, you got a badge, I have a Cisco badge. Well, there's a Cisco badge for some AI agent I created. Who's responsible for that agent? Am I? I created the agent. Am I responsible? Is Cisco responsible for the agent legally? Who's responsible for the agent? Is that agent following the code of business conduct? Well, there's applications and solutions, Cisco has some, that when you create these agents, you put guardrails, you feed the system a code of business conduct that says, hey, you can't send emails on the weekend. We work from 8 to 5. Externally, we work from 8 to 5. You're not allowed to post this type of content on LinkedIn. Same rules apply. But it is fascinating to think that I could have 10 employees that don't actually live in McKinney. They might be running in McKinney, and they have employee numbers, and they're being tracked, and they might be breaking the code of business conduct, and I'm responsible for it. That's the new reality we're living in. And that is a complex engineering problem to solve. Probably a great graduate student project at UTD. See if there's a couple stats here. It's interesting, 97% of security leaders, like Eric here, expect a material AI agent-driven incident this year. It's going to happen. The question is, are you protected? How do you control it? How do you audit? And I'll share just high level something that I always think about. Every AI interaction or action is a routing problem. Where do I send this action? Which AI model do I send it to? On-premise, in the cloud, a finance model, a legal model, an open source model. So the first thing is a routing problem. Where do I send this question or this task? The second is a trust decision. Should I trust this action with the request and the information that it's asking for? So number one is a routing problem. Second thing is a trust decision. Should I trust the action that's been taken? And the number three, which I think is the most important, is an observability event. How do I audit every single action of an AI agent that's operating in a business? How do you observe it? How do you audit it? How do you track it? Just like all of our laptops have information, have tools on it to track what we do. Believe it or not, they're tracking you. How do we do that for an agent? How do we track it and audit and go back and do forensics on what happened? Routing problem, trust decision, observability event. Every single AI action in an enterprise. How am I doing on time? Am I close? A couple minutes left? 2 minutes? Okay, I got to go fast. Sorry. Heads or tails? I think this is number 3, maybe. Heads or tails? Which one do you think? How about quantum physics? If we're talking quantum physics, anybody here studying quantum physics? If you are, then you're a lot smarter than me. What's the joke about quantum physics? If you say you really know quantum physics, you don't know quantum physics. Yeah. So heads or tails are both. Yeah, both. Depends on if you're looking at it or not. Don't look at it, it's both. But if you look at it, it's going to be one of the two. I will tell you, quantum is here. Your encryption has an expiration date. Absolutely it does. Cisco now is producing products. We have ASICs, we have chips, we have great chips from TI. We make our own silicon. We are putting chips in our products to do cryptography. Post-quantum cryptography. We're putting the chips in our products right now. How many official commercialized quantum computers are there in the market? 0. There's a bunch of projects. There are 0 commercial quantum computers. Now, there's some in universities will say, that's a lie, I have one. Okay, you have a couple qubits. But there are real chips out there. So quantum is here. These chips exist. Cisco has built a networking chip to do quantum and entanglement across the world. Now, it's not production, it's not ready. But the reality is, companies or the adversaries are harvesting data. What does that mean? Harvesting data. There's encrypted data that I capture. I can't decrypt it. It's RS-2048, might be less than that, some encryption key, some level of encryption on it. I can't decrypt it. But one day I might be able to decrypt it. And that data might be patient records, financial records, bank information. I'm going to hold on to it. And when quantum gets here, I'm going to decrypt it. Then I'm going to use it to my own advantage. That's harvesting. Publication, 2025 and 2026. We initially thought it would take 20 million qubits. I won't describe what a qubit is. You can look it up. AI can tell you all about it. We thought it was 20 million to break this encryption key. Then we said, you know what? I think we can actually do it with 1 million. But now we're saying we could probably do it with 100,000. When will we have a computer with quantum that can do 100,000 qubits? IBM is projecting 2033. 2033. That is 6 years from now. 6 years from now. So harvesting doesn't seem like, if you're an adversary, it doesn't seem like a bad idea. It's only 6 years from now. It is here. Quantum is here. And there are already companies around the world that are preparing for it. So if you are an enterprise and you're working toward modernizing your infrastructure, your security, the first question you should ask is the infrastructure I'm purchasing or using quantum ready? Put it in your RFP, put it in your design guide. You might not get 100% efficacy on what you're looking for, but start preparing for it now. If you're an undergrad or graduate student, this problem is a great problem to evaluate. And there are startups and companies and academia, major funding happening in this space, because in 6 years, it's going to be here. All right, my last one. I got to hurry. AI is going to replace my job. I hope everybody said no, although it's scary as hell. I have 3 boys. 2 of them are in the workforce. One of them does cattle and turkeys in Bonham, Texas. He doesn't have a problem with AI. At least not yet. I don't know. Maybe those robots might show up on the farm next to his. But it creates anxiety. How many people here have anxiety about AI and the work you do? Come on, if you're not raising your hand, then you're lying. I have it. I mean, it happens, and I feel like AI is going to make me successful. It makes me successful every day. How many people think AI is a distraction to you? It's a distraction. I mean, it's constantly, oh, try this tool, use this tool, try this. Oh, I got this. I'm using this. You should use this. Oh my gosh, I haven't done any work today. I've just been playing with models and tools and building this dashboard I'll never read. It's a distraction. The difference is you and how you apply it. But the idea of AI and the anxiety of it is very real. Anybody know what Jevons paradox is? Very simple concept. I'm not going to go through the details. Here's the analogy I'll give you. Imagine if you have a car, not a Tesla. You have a gas car. No, I'm not going to talk about electric car. And tomorrow, your car's gas mileage doubled. Tomorrow. All of a sudden, you get twice as many miles to the gallon. Do you think you'll drive less or more? You think you're just going to save your money? Oh, I get to save 50% of my gas. I'm just not going to drive now. No, you're probably going to take a trip. You're going to use that car more. And the idea here is when things commoditize, when costs go down and efficiencies are gained, in a job that AI removes 90% of the task and leaves 10%, the role of that person is going to fill the void. It's going to fill the void with innovative and unique ways of doing that job. And so usage will actually go up. So as AI solves, we will just consume more. That's the paradox. And that's the truth. It is happening today. That's why token usage is skyrocketing. It's skyrocketing. AI won't replace your job, but the person who knows how to use AI will. That's the fact. And so if you're not waking up every day learning on how to use it and apply it to your job and to your life, not just what you do at work, somebody eventually is going to come along and replace you in your job because they are instinctively using AI better. And my son, who's 21, he's not at UT. I'm not going to say where he is because I'll probably run out of here. He uses AI instinctively, better than me at times. I learned from him. And so I know our students in the room, instinctively, you know how to use it better than people my age. I say use it to your advantage. Threw a couple stats in here. This came from Dario, CEO of Anthropic. 2025, he said 50% of all the jobs are gone. 2026, he said, I might have been off on that. 2026, everyone starts touting Jevons paradox because they're seeing that with efficiency comes productivity and innovation. The reality check, there's 514,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs right now. In the US, and over almost 5 million globally. So if AI is solving all of our security problems, yes, but we need cybersecurity humans to be in the loop to solve real problems for our society. It is in high demand. Jevons paradox. There is more demand for technology jobs than we've ever had. All right, those are my 5 truths and a lie. I'll let you decide which one's true and which one's a lie. Well, time will tell in the future what will happen. I'm going to leave you with this. Be bold. Be confident in this era, but do not be comfortable. Because the technology is moving fast. And you have to wake up every day falling in love with the process of learning, developing yourself. What you've done, if you've been in the industry for 30 plus years like I have, what you've done in the past doesn't matter. Don't show up with your resume telling me you did 30 years of stuff in client server or routing and switching or certification. Like, that's what I have. It's about what you're doing now and the education and skills that you're developing into the future. So continue to be confident, but make sure you're not comfortable because this world's going to continue to grow and develop and innovation. And the pace of innovation is at an all-time high. You're at the right place at the right time in history. And I know I talked about a lot of things that might be a little scary, but I will say the outlook on humanity is super positive for all of us. And we have an opportunity to be a part of it, to make a difference, to beat the adversary. Everybody loves a good enemy. And do the right things for society overall. So thank you very much. Those are QR codes to my LinkedIn and to my Twitter. 5 minutes for Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Brad, for that wonderful keynote. Be confident, but do not be comfortable. Thank you so much. That was such a good one. I mean, for this era, we cannot be in a comfort space.
Yeah.
And lots of interesting data. The one that was really eye-opener was the graph that you showed, which is the time to exploit. that graph was not a slope, it was just a slide. So that is the scary part. And we also finished with quantum, which is a very interesting topic, something that is in everybody's mind right now, what is quantum about. And we do have a session from Cisco coming up this afternoon about quantum. So stay put for that. So we are a little tight on time, so we'll just take 2 questions for Brad. If anybody would raise, yes, please. So gentlemen, right over this third row. Yes.
You can talk to me about patch management. What is Cisco doing in terms of CDD data and how does that register?
Yeah. So the question, I believe your question was around patch management. So just in general for the industry, software gets patched, our iPhones get patched overnight, every single day. Patch management is no different for the infrastructure that powers the AI era, that powers this room. There is a dynamic that's happening in software today. And I will tell you that traditionally what we've done, there's a software bug or vulnerability, a patch is written, a patch is provided, and at some point, UT Dallas is going to upgrade a piece of device or a piece of software to fix the vulnerability. And they're going to put it on a timeline or a roadmap, in a couple months they're going to do the update. Obviously that can't happen anymore. So what's happening is, and I'll give you an example. Let's say there's an access point in this room, a Wi-Fi access point. The software running on that access point has a vulnerability. There's one right there. There's software running on the access point to run the access point in here. There's a bug or vulnerability that was found, and we have to fix it. It's decrypting and capturing packets that come through and stealing our information, something like that. I don't have time to patch it because we have this event today. I can't take it down. So there's something called mitigation that's happening. That device is running an operating system, most likely Linux. What if I put compensating control in Linux to prevent any type of malicious packet from going in and compromising that software? So I basically protect the software running on it from the operating system to prevent it being exploited. And when I have time, when this event's over, the IT department's going to push and fix the patch. Cisco calls that live protect. So it's like blocking the vulnerability from being exploited. It's buying you time so that you can come back and patch it later. Because patching sometimes takes time. But you need to minimize the risk. You can't just put a filter or a block on that device and leave it forever. At some point, you're going to go back and fix the problem. But this live protect concept is going to happen for all the infrastructure, especially critical infrastructure for governments, for power plants, municipalities, education, hospitals. You can't take down a hospital emergency room every 3 days to do software patch management. But you can push filters and policies to a device to mitigate any exploit from happening until you can get to the device. So I think that's how patch management is going to change. It's going to change for the good. Cisco Live Protect is what it's called.
Yeah, one more question.
So my name is Jax. You mentioned that encryption has an expiration date with the quantum computing. So what do you see in next 5 years, 10 years? Most of the passwords can be cracked, and also cryptocurrency encryption can be cracked. What is your take on it?
So there's a couple things. Some of those encryption keys we have today will be able to be cracked, but it depends on the size. And academia and private enterprise, they're developing, government entities are developing new encryption standards. And those standards are constantly being developed and getting pushed. The difference, though, is some of those encryption standards require hardware. It's going to require purpose-built chips. And it's not just encrypt once and transport forever. It's encrypt once and decrypt, and it's encrypt constantly. So now now I have a key. You and I exchange keys. I have my really long key. You have the same key. My private and public, we exchange. Nobody can see it. Every second, we're going to change it. And it's going to be dynamic, and we're going to constantly be moving and changing. I think the cryptography industry overall is going to go through major disruption and innovation. It's ready for startup, ready for academia, and it's going to require not just software, but it's going to require hardware acceleration as well. And that's why we're already putting it into our products. Not just Cisco, our competitors are doing the same thing. I would say for the last 30 years, encryption has moved at a human speed. The next 5 years, it's going to move at machine speed. It's going to be a fascinating space to be in. And that's not just for civilians. It's really for national security interests around the world. It's a great question. Okay.
Thank you. And
I'll be around.
thank
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're right, we do not have time for patch management, especially at a time where you have AI bots crawling across the internet dark web, looking for automation, looking for vulnerabilities. There's no time for patch management. Thank you, Brad, once more.
Sure.
And we will move on to the next speaker of the day, and Dr. Anand Singh, Chief Security and Strategy Officer at Symmetry Systems. He brings more than 2 decades of cybersecurity leadership experience and has served as a CISO across high-growth and enterprise organizations. Today, he will share practical perspectives on building cyber resilience as AI changes the threat landscape. And for some of you here, Anand, I've been following his work for a few years. He's a good friend, and he's very, very respected CISO in the Dallas community and also elsewhere. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Anand Singh.
Here's the slideshow.
I'm sorry, what?
Slideshow.
Like, why is it not
Full,
showing?
full slide. And why is it not showing?
It's because he's presenting it there. You could just grab it and, yeah. He is going to end the presentation.
Sorry, who is he?
We're just going to have Anand in 1 or 2 minutes.
Hey guys.
Always happens in the life, right? Anand here.
How is everyone doing this morning? Amazing. I know it is morning time, and some of you guys may still have that caffeine kicking in right now, but I guarantee after this presentation is over, you will be wide awake, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Ramya did a brief intro of me already, but my name is Anand Singh. I'm with Zscaler now because just about 2 months ago, my company Symmetry Systems was acquired by Zscaler. So I'm head of security and strategy for data and AI for Zscaler at this point. Just a couple of quick additional things about my background. I am one of those PhDs who made it to the industry. My PhD is from University of Minnesota in computer science, master's from Purdue, and have been in global CISO for almost 20 years now, including some of the largest companies in the world, United Health Group, Target Corporation, but also many exciting startups and adventures and forays along the way. Alchemy Technology, all the way from Series B to IPO to post-IPO growth. And Alchemy, people don't think of Dallas as a high-tech place, but Alchemy is actually headquartered right here in Dallas, and it is one of the largest fintechs in the country right now. They do digital banking behind the scenes, so when you go to your bank, it is quite likely that Alchemy Technology is involved behind the scenes in presenting your data and information to you. And as I said, most recently with Symmetry Systems, I was the Chief Security and Strategy Officer at Symmetry Systems, and now with Zscaler. So that's a little bit about me. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm also the author of this book, Data Security in the Age of AI, an Amazon bestseller, and came out last year. And this book is focused on how the discipline of data security is changing as the world is advancing into AI, and AI is tapping into data at a pretty fast and furious pace, right? So that's a little bit about me. Moving on, right? So how many of you guys saw a note recently about the amount of traffic that agents and bots are going to put on the internet? Can anyone mention the ratio between the agent-driven traffic and human-driven traffic?
100:1.
About 50:1. Yeah, so pretty close, but Cloudflare did a recent analysis. As of right now, agent and bot traffic dominates human traffic. We just crossed that threshold like literally like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. This is now. Another few years and agents would be like, I think Cloudflare's forecast is that in 4 or 5 years from now, it is going to be 50:1. It could very well hit 100:1 in another like maybe 10 years or something, right? We all know the amount of traffic that internet put on the web traffic put on the internet, right? So this is the fast and furious age that we are living in. In my book, I have a quote from a 19th century philosopher. His name is Alfred North Whitehead, and it's kind of the quote that is embedded in me. And if you guys can remember it, please remember it. If you guys can't remember it, please write it down. The quote is, "The art of progress is to adapt to change while maintaining the process fabric, and vice versa. The art of good process fabric is to maintain the change, right? Both go simultaneously with each other." So that's the quote, right? And that applies to the age of AI. In this age of AI, data, identity, and agents, they are going to be just fully dominating everything in the on the internet, right? So let's talk about what these things mean, right? And why this trifecta is so important. People talk about all the complexities that go with the age of AI. Fundamentally, it's about these three things: agents, identity, and data. Why? The reason why that is the case is because agents are going to create a whole new paradigm that has not been witnessed in the age of AI or in the previous history before. Agents operate on ephemeral identities, meaning they could be fully operational, they could perform their activities, and 5 seconds later, their identity is not in existence anymore. How are you going to figure out what agent did in that time frame, right? If the identity doesn't exist, the trail doesn't exist, right? So that ephemeral nature of identities is a big problem with agents. The second key factor is that agents have what is called transitive relationships, right? What does that mean? Transitive relationships means the agent can farm out sub-agents, and the sub-agents can go perform activities on behalf of the master agent, right? So all of this complexity is getting introduced in enterprise security environments. And it's very hard for the traditional systems to stay on top of all of these changes, right? Because they were never wired for ephemeral identities. They were never wired for transitive identities, right? Where one agent can farm out responsibility to a bunch of sub-agents, etc., right? So I've already talked a little bit about identities, but the traditional AM was built for humans, meaning that it is like me, Anand, with a named login and a password stored somewhere, right? But in the case of ephemeral identities, where agents are operating and then go out of existence in minutes and seconds, how do you know, right? The whole identity parameter changes. And then lastly, data. This is probably the biggest part of the trifecta that I'm describing, because data can be anywhere. Data can be on your device. Data can be in your cloud data stores. Data can be in your data lakes like Snowflakes and data bricks of the world, right? Data can be anywhere and everywhere. And so in this massive sprawl of data, how do you make sense of how AI can use? By the way, can you guys hear me all right? Yeah. Do I need a mic? Okay. The mic is not working?
Yeah, there's no difference from when you move it.
Okay, maybe this is better? Okay. I'm glad I asked the question because the mic was not on. My agent was not working. Okay. So I think let's move on and talk about how do we solve this problem and what kind of questions do we need to answer, right? But before we jump in there, I'm hoping there are some entrepreneurs in this room, UT students, others who are going to go build something or work for like fast-moving startups and things like that, right? It is so critical for you to understand what is the size and shape of a typical organization. This is the size and shape of a typical organization. Billions of data objects and files across the enterprise. Millions of non-human identities and human identities sprawled everywhere. Tens of thousands of unstructured data buckets, right? Tens of thousands of databases, thousands of developers. And to secure all of this, how many security engineers? Tens of security engineers and analysts, right? It's a massive problem that security engineers and security teams are facing. So two key highlights here for any students in the room. Number one, cybersecurity is gonna, I wrote on this recently an article, but cybersecurity is gonna continue to see a jobs boom in the future. And number two, the second thing is there is a massive opportunity for cybersecurity startups and entities to go and solve this problem for massive sprawl of data and identities and AI security risks, right? There is a reason why there is like thousands of AI startups, AI security startups everywhere. So this is the reason. This is the problem statement, okay? What does a typical enterprise look like, right? This is kind of another key piece of the puzzle. So hopefully you guys can kind of memorize this, remember this. For people who are from enterprises, you know this by heart, right? Your data is very hybrid data plus AI state, right? So what do you have? You have your big data platforms like Data Rubrik and Databricks. You have your SaaS clouds like Salesforce, etc. You have your public clouds, AWS, Google, Amazon, Oracle, Azure. And then as if this was not complicated enough, many enterprises still have massive on-prem data stores, right? In your on-prem file shares. Nasuni, EMS, Dell, all of these, right? So this is kind of a typical data real estate of an enterprise. And this real estate is used by AI and agents in many different ways, right? So let's talk about the most fundamental thing. What is the most important thing for AI? How do you make AI effective? Data. And how does AI use data in stage one? For training, right? That's how you make AI smart, because when you train, at the very core of it, the neural networks get formulated and AI builds the context and it starts to become productive, right? And training is, so that's kind of the starting of how AI uses data. Once it has been trained, it can start generating data after that because it has intelligence, right? So agents do the same thing. And so you can see, right, in a typical enterprise, you will have your contractors, your non-human identities, your human users, all of this kind of taking advantage of your data stores across the spectrum. What is the result of that? The results of that is that 0% of the organization have complete, everyone has some visibility, but 0% of the organizations have complete visibility into what customer data is exposed to third party, what customer data is exposed to AI, and what data did an agent use on behalf of an admin, right? So up to this point, I'm still on the problem statement, but I hope you guys are getting a sense of how the world is evolving and the enterprises are being left behind and they have to catch up really fast. And that gap is the opportunity for great engineers. That gap is the opportunity for great startups. That gap is the opportunity for people to go and solve these massive fundamental problems and make a ton of money along the way, right? Okay. So just a quick summarization of what we have talked about so far. Ephemeral identities for agents, inherited permissions, agent-to-agent chains where transitive things can happen, and then lastly, shadow and endpoint AI, right? This is another piece of the puzzle. There is a bunch of chaos in most organizations where people, they want to be productive. They want to, if the enterprise is not giving them proper AI tools to use, what happens? They do their own AI, right? And they feed companies' data into their own AI, right? You don't want those things to be happening. So that's the problem of shadow AI. Okay. Now, we have talked about problem statements. Let's look at some real life consequences of what happens, right? So what happens? Everyone knows about the Hugging Face incident recently, right? You guys know, right? A couple other things, right? The first episode that happened in this respect was Replit. Replit is the AI code development platform, and an AI agent within Replit had the responsibility of maintaining their databases, right? So, and cleaning up their databases. The agent, in its autonomous thinking, came to the conclusion that, hey, the best way to maintain the database is to not have a database. So it wiped the entire production database, not just like test or something like that. It wiped the entire production database. Replit was down for 3 days. Entire code base was lost. Fortunately, they had good backups, and so they were able to restore. Another company, they did not have good backups. They actually stored their production databases and the backup databases on the same file store. The agent again deleted it, but this time it deleted the entire company, and the company was not able to restore itself, right? So these are some of the problems that agents can do because of the kind of autonomous thinking that they have, right? So again, kind of that establishes the rubric for why it is so important to have good security in place, right? So what I'm talking about, all of this came out of again, this is kind of pretty exciting because these ideas and thesis that I'm discussing, it came out of a research at UT Austin. This is the actual paper, so if you have some time, go read it. Confused deputy risks and RAG-based LLMs. This is from Mohit Tiwari, who is the founder of Symmetry Systems. They built an entire company, very, very successful entire company around this. Okay. So what is the solution? I've talked about problem long enough. What is the solution to all of this, right? The solution is to establish full context. And for those of you, I'm sure everyone in this room knows that context is everything in AI, right? So context is what gives the AI intelligence, right? What is the context that is required in the scheme of protecting enterprises in the age of AI? The context that you require is an amalgamation of 3 things. Data context, which is what is the scope of data, right? Agent context, meaning what AI and agents are being used. And lastly, the identity context, right? The identity context is what permissions and accesses and privileges are being performed by who. You bring the 3 together, and what happens? You bring the 3 together and magic happens, right? Because you get very actionable, precise information about the AI security posture of the enterprise. So that's the idea, right? So you bring the 3 together, and it creates what is called a AI access graph. So this is the AI access graph. This may look complicated, but it's pretty simple. The idea here is everything blue in this graph is your data. And everything that is not blue has some identity connotation. Users, roles, groups, services, agents, right? So what this AI and data access graph is representing is if there is a line between data and identity, that means that identity has access to that data, right? So it's a very simplistic way of looking at it. I'm going to go give you a non-animated version of a real enterprise. This is a real enterprise, okay? And what I want you to think about is, this is kind of, we are talking about the R&D part of the product, right? Or R&D part of what a solution framework looks like. This becomes the engine for everything else, reporting, issues, risks, outcomes, everything else that comes out of it, right? But I think it's important for you to understand the engine of all of this. This is the engine. This is the enterprise, right? And I'm going to ask a trick question here. So I'm hoping I can get some responses out from the audience. Do you think this is a well-structured enterprise, or do you think this is not a well-structured enterprise, and why? Maturity-wise, mature, not so mature? What's the thought process here? Anyone?
So the enterprise might have actually gone through major acquisitions and multiple platforms.
Yeah.
It's kind of like diversified enterprise where like they have got data sprawls across like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a typical enterprise like of any Fortune 500 like might look like this.
Yeah. Mature or not mature?
It's not mature.
Correct. So Govind is 100% right. And he provided a very good thesis for why, and that is 100% correct. Another very simple way to think about this is, in this enterprise, there is no segmentation. Everyone, a lot of people have access to all, right? It is like everything is everywhere, right? And everyone has access all over the place, right? This is not a mature organization. Now, this is the same organization 1 year later, okay? So now you can see there are clusters, there is segments, there is like production, there is data, enterprise data management. So this is kind of a well-structured environment. They took the previous graph, remediated the massive sprawl of privileges and information and data everywhere, removed duplication, and this is what they arrived at, right? 1 year later, right? So this is the power that a good, well-structured identity, data, and agent framework gives to you, right? Very simply. Okay. So I'm going to skip through some of these in the interest of time, but like this is another like problem statement that I'm going to talk about, right? So what is your goal, right? In an AI security solution, what is the goal that you are striving for? And some of these are going to be very buzzwordy, so I'm going to try to subtract the buzzwords and get to the core of what we are talking about. But control plane is one of those buzzwords. Everyone wants to become the AI control plane. But the idea here is that you want to become the central plane for information flows and home for durable data and AI security policies. Why? Because this is the type of question that you want to be able to answer. Identity type has permission on data type to perform a certain operation type. And this is the piece, these three pieces were there before, even pre-AI, right? But this is the piece that becomes important in the age of AI. What is the purpose for which the operation is being performed? Why? Because before you could define the purpose in your scripts, before you could define the purpose in your logic, before you could define the purpose in your algorithms, right? But now, can you define the purpose in an age where autonomous AI agents are operating with their own intelligence? Can you predefine the purpose? Yes or no? Exactly. And that's why you need this conception of understanding the purpose, right? That's the key, right? So like this is a real enterprise example of something like this, right? So an agent is acting on behalf of a sales user. It has permissions on sales data, like in Salesforce or something. It can perform read-only, but why is it performing this? It is performing this because it has to do sales performance analysis, right? So this is the purpose. Now, in the age of AI, the smart solutions need to have purpose built into the fabric of the security solutions that are being deployed in the enterprise. Okay, awesome. So what are the capabilities that you build into the access graph? The capabilities that you build into the access graph are like, what is data lineage? Does anyone know here what does data lineage mean in the context of enterprise? Sorry? Yeah, exactly. How the data is moving across the enterprise, right? If I'm a user, I have a Salesforce data, I make a copy of that data into my personal drive, right? That my personal drive traces this lineage back to Salesforce, right? That's the data lineage concept. Super critical, super important. You will hear it all the time. That's what it means. So very simply, right? Least privilege at runtime. There are a couple of principles that will be evergreen, always in security. One is least privilege. And what is the second one? Sorry? I can't hear you. Zero trust, yeah. I mean, zero trust is another key principle, but the underlying principle of zero trust is need to know, right? Least privilege and need to know, right? So those are kind of and then another one, the third one is defense in depth, right? So those are some evergreen principles in cybersecurity. Least privilege is one of those, right? And then you have anomaly containment. Anomaly containment means like if an agent has a duty to operate a certain way and it deviates from that because it is moving away from the purpose, right? Its purpose was to do sales analytics, and suddenly it is starting to delete databases, right? It's an anomaly. It's deviating from this purpose. I hope you guys get a sense of why understanding the purpose is so important because of this, right? Because if you understand the purpose, you can understand when an agent deviates from its purpose, and then you can stop the agent from doing something that it's not supposed to be doing, right? That's why the purpose, understanding the purpose is so important. And then lastly, blast radius analysis. What this means, up to this point, I've talked about proactive. Blast radius analysis is reactive, meaning an incident has happened, an identity has been compromised, you want to understand, or an agent has been compromised, you want to understand what is the sphere of influence that the agent has, right? So these are the 4 core capabilities. I would say it is not only with the access graph, it's for any AI solution. I'm giving you the blueprint for if you are building an AI security solution, what are the 4 things that you need to consider? These are the 4 things that you need to consider, okay? Okay, I'm going to move on from some of these and talk about a few things, right? So now I'm kind of moving into some of the applied part of it. Up to this point, we have talked about the problem statement. We have talked about how we go solve it, what kind of questions we want to answer, how do we understand the purpose. Now we are going to talk about some of the problem statements in the enterprises, right? And how they can be solutioned via this AI access graph and the engine, right? So here we have a multinational enterprise. Let's say a consulting firm like PwC or Deloitte is spread throughout the world, okay? These consulting firms operate in a local model where they have a large consortium, but every country has its own independent local entity that does the operations for that company, right? So in this scenario, we have an entity sitting in South America, we have an entity sitting in US, and we have an entity sitting in, let's say, Singapore, okay? So in this scenario, and this is a real world scenario, what happened is a user from Singapore got access to data in South America via the US. They got here and then jumped from here to here. They were not supposed to have access because Brazil has very super stringent regulations and requirements about privacy of the citizens in their country, right? So, but the agent was able to, from Singapore to US to Brazil, right? So this is kind of a real world example on how, like, in the absence of least privilege and monitoring the activities of agents, things can happen that are not supposed to happen. AI access graph will determine this flow and it will notify or stop based on what your needs are, okay? Because it understands the purpose. It understands that the agent should not be able to hop through like this, right? The agent's purpose was to operate within Singapore and US. Because of the relationship between the two, it should not have had access to the Brazilian data, right? Okay, this is another key example, right? So this is an example of like many enterprises have a ton of data sitting that serves no value, but it costs a ton of money because they store it in AWS S3 bucket. And think about petabytes of data sitting in AWS S3 buckets. Think about petabytes of data sitting in a Snowflake, in a Databricks, and that data has no value, but you are still paying for it through your nose because all of these charge by the amount of data. They don't care if you use it or you don't use it, right? Snowflake charges by amount of data. Databricks charges by amount of data. S3 buckets, you pay by amount of data. Okay, awesome. I'm not right. So this is kind of another example, right? So what do you want to do in this scenario? What is the risk? The risk is agents. Someone may harvest an agent and use that agent to access this data that has no security, no protection, because it is sitting dormant and there's no active care and feeding of this, right? What happens in this scenario? In this scenario, what is happening is, from a remediation perspective, AI access graph will identify that all of this data is dormant and not in use. How does it identify? Because remember, there is a line going from an identity into data, right? The blue was the data, everything else was identity, right? So if there is no line going into a data blob in the access graph, what does that mean? That means the data is old, not in use, dormant, right? It can be archived. You don't delete data in enterprises typically because of the nature of like, maybe I will need it someday. So what you do is you archive it into cold storage, you save a ton of money, and you are more secure as a result of that, right? So those are a couple of use cases. I have a few more things that I can go through, but I think you guys get the gist of what I'm talking about, the risk, the solutions, the problem statement, etc. So we can open up the floor for any questions that you guys may have. Yeah, please.
So actually, the security. We are focusing on not cybersecurity as it hackers deriving from hackers itself, but I'm looking at the psychological aspect of it. Like I know that most scams are like people are being talked into it rather than how a hacker will like remotely access anyone. So in that case, should I actually invest in having the data to like back it up, or can I just use a IAM model where I can do it with a agentic AI model or something?
Yeah. So good question. I will be paraphrase this for the whole room here, just in case you didn't hear it. The question is, like the previous model was user exploitation. In this new world, can agents be exploited? What is the best way to prevent agent exploitation, right? So 100% correct. I think historically, users have been the weakest link. I actually wrote an article on this just yesterday, but users have been the weakest link. In the future, agents will be the weakest link. And what can you do to protect the enterprises from agents becoming the weakest link or getting exploited for enterprise by bad actors, right? The best way, I think the solution that you provided is also the correct solution, which is, but it is a 1/3 of the solution, right? You have to have the trifecta: data, identity, agents, and then in the center of all of those sitting the context, the intelligence, right? So that's what the AI-axis graph is basically, right? So that's the idea. I think you had the 1/3 of the solution, which is, can I build a solution for this using identity? Partially, but to have a full solution around this, you need the trifecta. Okay, please.
I think super insightful. When you look at the cybersecurity, the data security in general, is it the time for us to kind of come up with a radical approach of like open data society? Like for example, a big part of the data security is protecting PII as an example. But what if we basically solve the problem with like making the identities public?
Yeah.
But rather you verify the identity at the time of transaction.
Yeah.
Example. It's more like real time.
Yeah.
So that the value of trying to guard a 10-digit number or 12-digit number, that feels like so innate or anti to more of this.
Yeah.
But leading on that, it's like, at least in the human identity, we have passkeys and other stuff. The equivalent of that in the agentic and that kind of stuff. I believe that we need to spend more on that aspect rather than trying to guard the pieces of data.
Yeah, good question. I think what you're saying is just in time or getting to a framework where you do the validation at the time of access rather than predefining all of this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good approach, and again, I think could be a good. The enterprises are not wired that way today, right? So it's a very radical idea. I think it's a very smart idea, but I think where the limitation is that you have to work with what enterprises have today, which is where your radical ideas become hard because they are not set up for that kind of a structure and rubric, right? But I would say there is still promise in there in the sense that why should we focus on legacy enterprises? Maybe one day all of these legacy enterprises would be replaced by these forward-looking enterprises like Anthropics and Hugging Faces of the world, right? So maybe we should not stop worrying so much about what their rubric is. Maybe we should focus on what the future rubric is, right? I would say, and I'm going to quote like John Chambers here. I was spending some time with him, the legendary Cisco CEO, and I spent some time with him last year at the SAFE conference, and he said, in another 5 years, about 60% of the S&P 500 will either cease to exist or will be purely AI companies, one of those two. They don't have any other option, right? I think what you described is kind of just very, very central to that. Okay. And okay.
That was the last question. We don't have time for.
Okay, no.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Yeah. Oops. Somewhere in there is the way to get out.
We can go this way or that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Anand, again for
Thank
the
you.
wonderful session.
Sorry?
Very informative. Our next speaker, and I'm happy to introduce to you all, is Thangaraj Pechiappan. He's the CTO for Security, Infrastructure and Cloud at iLink Digital. He has been deeply involved in AI-driven cybersecurity initiatives, including threat detection and security operations. Today, he will explore how AI and Microsoft Sentinel can strengthen threat detection and response. So please join me in welcoming Thangaraj to the stage.
This one is working. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dallas. Good morning, Dallas. Okay, there you go. So today we are going to talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to the securing the AI agents. I'm so glad the two sessions that we had in the past kind of like covered what I wanted to do, but I'm going to show like a lot of demos today. How many of you here wanted to see demos, live demos? Okay, for those of you, like I think 10 hands, you can see the demos. Okay, so we're going to talk about securing the agentic enterprise, right? So if you take a look on all the different agents that's going around across every enterprise, so there is a lot of questions how these agents are secured, how are we going to govern these agents, specifically when it comes to enterprise-related application agents. So I'm categorized those kind of events specifically in these three buckets, which is then autonomous action, expanded attack surface, and also a new attack technique. Right? So what is an autonomous action, right? So I create an agent and I tell the agent, oh, go do everything automatically. So if you guys ask me, do I need an agent 100% autonomous, I would say no, because the agent can do whatever it can do, right? So autonomous agent is something like a rogue live representative, a live engineer, a SOC engineer who is doing some action on himself, right? So 80% autonomous and 20% human in the loop is what I would suggest. And if someone is saying this agent is doing 100% automatically, so that's not the right way to do according to the industry, right? And the second one is the expanded attack surface, right? So if we are connecting this agent to do stuff automatically to different connectors, for example, Azure Active Directory, your on-premises Active Directory, your Purview, right? So any third-party systems that you use, and we connect this agent to those tools through connectors and ask the agent to do the work automatically, that is where the expanded attack surface comes into play. And then the new attack techniques, right? So a little bit going technical when we talk about new attack techniques like prompt injection, you might have heard in many places, jailbreak attacks, and also identity theft. So these three things we are seeing in the market, in the industry, almost every day. And I put some stats behind that number, that 88% of the organization running AI agents, somewhat they reported some kind of threats last year, 2025. And approximately 6% of the security budget are currently they're dedicated to AI agent security. That is why you see the shift between the job market in terms of the AI, right? So, but the budget allocated overall, we see it like 6%. And then there is a 16x data moved by the AI agents. But typically, a kind of like a human user who is raising the data migration from one place to another. So those kind of work is also given to the AI agents. So just thought of like giving you some real-time world examples. Like you see here, the eco-lick, right? See, these all happened in the real time recently, right? So how many of you use Microsoft 365 Copilot today? Right, so there is a pretty much good large amount of user base that's using Copilot. But how do we secure the data in and out that's going around 365, right? So the 365 Copilot, so this particular incident called CV 2025 32711, which has CV has a score of 9.3. So basically this happened in the zero-click prompt injection for an exfiltration in a production AI system. So not going to details much, but again, like there is a RCE, which is the remote code execution. So this happened in GitHub Copilot CVS 9.6. And there is a Mexican government agency breach exposing 195 million tax record, taxpayers record. So that is also a major breach in Mexican government agencies, and then the light LLM supply chain backdoor information. So these are real time, recently happened. If you look at this, all four are related to AI and AI agents. So what this means, right? So many of the companies or organizations thinks they already have a tighter security program. So how do we take this shift, right? So basically, if someone is thinking AI is just a smarter chatbot, that is not correct. It is not a chatbot at all. It's not a smarter chatbot at all, right? So it can do things autonomously, like the first slide I was talking about. The 80% of the autonomous task is taken by the AI. It's not like a regular chatbot. So what this means for the security program, right? So what should we do? So just these three examples, the prompt injection, excessive agencies, and then the prompt leakage, system prompt leakage. So overall, doing a triaging correlation, not just from the logs, but from what AI is doing, what the AI agent is doing. Let's say if you have an agent 365, or if you have some mechanism to monitor and govern your AI agents today. So that mechanism needs to be integrated with something called SIM, right? So like for example, Sentinel, Security Incident and Event Management tool. So those correlations and triaging can happen in a tool like SIM, and some of those automation tasks can be also done by the SIM itself. So in today's session, I would like to at least go through like 4 different scenarios. The agenda would be like, let's say the 4 items, including data security and purview. So how do we secure all the data using purview, specifically the data which is transferred through AI agents? A live showcase of the demo. Some of the demos I have some recordings. Hopefully you will understand. If you have any questions, I can also answer at the end of the session. We are also sitting outside just in case of more questions today. So the third one, we will also look at the AI threat detection. I was talking about the Sentinel or SIM, how any AI agents, event logs and security logs and threats, those could be easily correlated and triaged using a tool like Sentinel, for example. And then, of course, securing AI at an enterprise scale level. I also have some videos and recordings on that. Right, this is scenario 1. Maybe I wanted to keep it simple, so you can correlate to your organization or whatever you're doing today. Could be a student or working for an organization at various levels. So these are 7 scenarios. Pretty sure like one of the scenario might hit your mind. For example, an HR and a customer record. If someone is sharing through, let's say, ChatGPT, let's say through an email, either it's in Microsoft or Gmail or any other email system, right? If someone is sharing HR records, how do we stop this today? Same thing if someone is taking a screenshot, printout, let's say bank account number, routing number, or SSN or any kind of confidential information. If someone is taking a screenshot, I see some of them are taking pictures. So how do I stop taking pictures of a confidential information, right? Like printing, for example. And then like how do we do the DSPM for AI, right? So data security posture management. So we do data security for all different items, like let's say any kind of endpoints. Brad was talking about some of the Wi-Fi routers, things like that. We also spoke about patching, but how do I do DSPM specifically for AI and AI-related agents? And then departing users, right? So that is a major critical threat. I'm pretty sure like many of you are aware, like let's say an employee is offboarded or is departing. How do we solve or how do we make sure he's not like sharing any of the confidential information or he's not taking any of the confidential information, right? So there are multiple things that needs to be secured when it comes to departing or an offboarding an employee from an organization. So we will also see like few examples and demos today, whatever the time permits. Okay, this particular example, blocking external emails. So an employee trying to send some confidential information to some personal email, right? So it's not my organization email. So he puts his personal email and then he also types in all the US passport numbers, some confidential information. Immediately you see on the top, Purview is stopping, there is a DLP with encryption, there is a policy tip. So this policy tip is coming from Purview, sensing the information from the email, and it is also blocking not this user to send this information to his personal email. And then how do I stop users to copy information to an USB or any other external drives, right? So this is again possible using Purview. So this particular example is trying to copy the information from a notepad file, and then he's trying to copy to an external hard disk or an USB drive. So as soon as he do this, right? So it could be, again, he is getting an error message on the right side. So DLP, data loss prevention, Purview is stopping this action. Action is blocked by the administrator. And it just not blocks this action, it also reports to the administrator, the Purview administrator and the SOC team. So this information is about the AI uploading data to AI, right? So let's say if I want to upload a confidential data, I'm going with the same example. So how do I block this? Someone is uploading a data to ChatGPT, for example, right? Or Claude, for example, right? So that's my organization limit. I don't want to do that. So here I'm copying and uploading data to a Dropbox. So as soon as I do that, it sends the information. It is a confidential data. And then you see it is blocked. Again, this is done by Purview DLP policy. So we'll also see the DLP policy in M365 Copilot. So because I showed some of the real-time examples when there was an incident that happened in the M365 Copilot. So this particular example, what you're seeing here, a user is trying to share some confidential information in Teams. Let's say this information was all like financial information. You wanted to share this to a different user in Teams. I want to block that happening again through Purview itself. So he copies this information, he pasted in Teams, and he is about to hit the send button. See, as soon as he hit the send button, there are two things happening here. You can see the message was flagged, and there is going to be a policy tip as well. The message was flagged, saying he cannot send this information. And there is a Teams notification as well talking about the message has been flagged. So these are some real-time things we combine together for our clients and then help them to secure the data specifically when they share this data in AI, and they share the data, specifically the sensitive and confidential data, either in Teams or Outlook, or sending to an external email, uploading to chatbots, or uploading to Dropbox, things like that. Oh, 5 minutes already? Okay. Okay, one last demo and then I will skip. I have so many scenarios, I didn't thought it will go so fast. So this scenario is talking about the employee who's leaving the company, who's trying to download a lot of information. And then he's also trying to delete some information. So all of those information, the logs and alerts captured by the M365 data theft by by a departing employee. So you can see on the right side all the different files and which employee is doing this. And he has tried to do like an external email delivery on shared files like say SharePoint or OneDrive. And then there are some sensitive information he's trying to send it to other people as well. So this is basically done using connectors. And I can also connect Agent 365 to Purview and Sentinel and do the triaging and things like that. So once this is complete, I'll take a few questions if there's questions, and then I'll be outside to take any more comments. So it's called like IRM HR data connector. So that is how this is working. The HRM data connector is connected to Purview, and we created a policy for any departing employee who's downloading or who's deleting or who's printing, right? So avoid those kind of situations and alert to the SOC stuff, SOC guys, the SOC guys. Yeah, with that I will close. I don't want to take much of your time. So is there any questions? Please go ahead. A very good question. So in Purview, the data labeling, we have two kinds of labeling. One is automatic, one is manual. So you can do 100% auto labeling if there's a business requirement. So and if you also need to have an associated license, the Purview license to do auto labeling versus manual labeling. But to answer your question, we can do 100%.
Okay. Any more questions? Just one more. Just take one.
Yeah, you talk about Sentinel, like analytic tools. Did you have place where you create custom rules? Can I get a quick picture with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we do have custom workbooks for that. But recently Sentinel have announced, I do had a demo for that. So recently Sentinel have announced you don't need to create a lot of, you don't need to do a lot of coding to do those workbooks. So using plain English, you can just go create those workbooks. In terms of analytical rules and in terms of the logic apps, you don't have to like be a technical writing scripts, writing codes to create logic apps as well. So everything has come like in plain English to do that. Yes. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Lots of great insight there. We will another round of applause. I'm sure everybody is awake and feeling secure. This is a security conference here. So
Thank you.
secure, right? Nobody has reused a password twice, I'm sure. I hope so. No? Okay. Let me introduce you to the next keynote speaker, Rick Oliver. He's a director with Capability Advisory, bringing an advisory perspective to technology, risk, and cybersecurity. His work focuses on helping organizations respond to emerging risks while enabling business transformation. Today, we'll discuss how organizations can innovate with AI while putting the right security and governance guardrails in place. Please welcome Rick Oliver.
Can everybody hear me all right? All right, looking forward to speaking with you today. We had some great presentations, a lot of good information, and my presentation is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be quite as technical. It's going to be more business-centered. I mean, the reason that we're talking about data and AI and security is to support a business operation, right? So we're going to talk about what matters to the business and how we interact with that. I'm going to have a few questions and a little participation, but first question, how many of you have ever heard of Eid Bailey before? It's pronounced Eid Bailey. We got 0 hands. All right. wait, one. I didn't see you, sir. You're too close. We got 1 hand.
Probably competitors.
A competitor, so we are. At least we're making the map there. We are an accounting firm. So we help organizations manage their business operations, but most accounting firms, or a lot of accounting firms, are now getting into business consulting, including technology, which is what we're all here for today. So we have a large technology consulting division. I lead our cybersecurity sales advisory practice. So second question, how many of you in here are students, undergrad or grad? And how many of you are in here from a business perspective? Okay, pretty evenly split room. That's what I was wondering, so I can make sure to talk to that in our the presentation. So the first thing I'm going to do here, once I figure out how to advance my, do you know which one this is? Let's try that button. That didn't work. All right. Oh, all right, perfect. I was just pressing stuff, seeing what would happen. Okay, so here's a QR code. This is not a trick for all you cybersecurity folks. There's a QR code, and we're going to do a little bit of a trivia here right away. We've got 3 questions. I'm not going to list the questions on the screen. This is going to be on your phones. If you're uncomfortable clicking on a QR code, because again, we're in a cybersecurity conference, I get it, you can go to slido.com. And then there's the number for the questions there. I'm going to try to operate this off my phone too, which I've never done. So we're going to see how this works. All right. So a couple phones left. Okay. First question. I'm going to start it here. This is a trivia question. In 2024, an employee at Arup. Arup is a global engineering firm. They are instructed via a video call by their CFO and senior leadership to transfer funds for a confidential project. He completed 15 wire transfers totaling $25 million belonging to cyber criminals. How did this happen? I'll pop up the results there, give you a minute to answer. So this actually happened, and all of the options, of course, are real-life options that are happening, but this is a $25 million one, made some pretty big news a couple of years ago. The answer that we're receiving here, 72%, and it's adjusting, you can keep answering, 72% or 62% now are saying every person on that call was an AI-generated deepfake. 30% are saying the CFO's email account was compromised and the account information was changed. And then a couple of smaller amounts saying the employee had been groomed on LinkedIn or a finance team insider staged it. All of them realistic scenarios. The answer is every single person on that video call was an AI deepfake. Is that not crazy? There's a CFO and other leadership that were on this call that were convincing enough 2 years ago already that this employee wired $25 million out of their organization. That's surprising to me. Again, we're not going to show it up here. This is just on our phones. This is due to my poor planning on putting this up. All right, next question. How much of your voice does AI need to clone it well enough to fool your coworkers? The specific stat that I'm citing, it was enough to fool 70% of your coworkers. So how much of your voice does AI need to clone it well enough? 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 3 minutes? Give you just another bit to answer. It's pretty much a dead heat between 3 seconds and 30 seconds so far. The answer, well, let me show the results here. There we go. The answer, 3 seconds. 3 seconds for let's just do a senior leader too, for 70% of their employees to believe it's them. That's how little time it takes to impersonate that now. And then the last question, I actually had to change this question. The first one was about 0 days, and that was already answered earlier, so we switched this one up. All right, question number 3. Can everybody see it on their phones? Yes. All right. According to Sophos, they surveyed 2,158 organizations that were hit by ransomware, where stolen credentials were the primary cause. What share of them had multi-factor authentication enabled at the time of the attack? None, 12%, 40%, or 97%. So based on organizations where stolen credentials were the primary way, how many of them were using multi-factor? So we're kind of across the board on this one. Looks like 30% are saying 97%. It's kind of evenly distributed between none, 12, 40, and 97. The answer is 97%. I am not here to say don't use multi-factor authentication at all. Definitely use multi-factor authentication. But if I were to ask a business, or let's even say a business leader, how many of you are using multi-factor authentication? Everybody in this room, right? How many of you are using multi-factor authentication on every single one of your applications? Much smaller percentage. Same answer for business. While these businesses were using multi-factor authentication, they were missing it across the board, and they were missing on some key systems. So could they say we were using it? Yes. Were they using it where it mattered for that attack? No. So we have to, as a business, start spreading a little bit wider and start being able to answer these questions better when we're using multi-factor authentication. What does that mean? Where are we talking? Is it across the enterprise? Is it on a few accounts? Is it on all? We have to get better at that. So thanks for playing along with the quiz show. How many people got all three right? I see like 3 people. Nice job. Maybe there's more. There's a lot of hands, but thank you for participating. Appreciate it. All right. So from a business perspective, the questions that were being asked not too long ago, and they're still being asked by small businesses today, is that first question, should we be using AI? I can't tell you from a business leader perspective how often we hear of a CEO or a CFO that goes to a conference and they learn about all the capabilities of AI and what it can do, and they come back and they say, we're getting into AI. And so the technical people in the organization go, what does that mean? And they go, I don't know, but we're going to use AI. Those questions need to start to shift because AI is the future. I think we're all here and can agree with that. The questions need to start to shift. Who can reach our data? Who's accountable when it goes wrong? Who understands what we need to be looking at? These are the questions that can enable an organization. So before we get into what's it going to do, we need to understand how we're going to secure it because that drives the innovation. Whoops. So some real incidents that have happened. We've already talked about, I think, 3 of these, or 2 of these today. Hugging Face, I think we know what happened there. The last speaker talked about Replit, where a coding agent deleted the database. That is a pretty effective way to manage a database, is just not have it. I thought that was pretty clever. And then Samsung had employees pasting confidential source code into a public AI tool, and their data was retained outside their system. And Gartner had also just quoted that 30% of generative AI pilots are abandoned, largely due to oversight. So if you want to be a business enabler, either now or when you get into the workforce, it starts with security. There is all kinds of security threats that can significantly damage the business. These are just a few examples. It starts with security. That's how you help the business grow. That's how you help the business continue to thrive. And if an organization there's organizations that aren't fully invested in AI yet. They're still at the beginning of that curve. They're kind of dabbling in how far we want to go. That's fair. What isn't happening, though, is the cyber threat actors, they don't care whether you've decided to invest in AI, they have. They have invested in AI, and we are defending against AI-driven threats. Things like deepfakes, which we talked about. Voice cloning, talked about that as well. AI-accelerated phishing. I don't need to craft a clever phishing email if I have somebody's email. I can simply ask AI to do it based on the things that they're interested in, based on their work, based on their family. I can put together a pretty darn good phishing email that would be very specific to you. So our adversaries are using it against us. So whether we've decided as an organization that we're in or not, it's coming at us. As well as crime as a service. Well, crime as a service is, think of crime as a kind of like how Ford used to build cars on. I'm blanking on the word here, but where you do one piece at a time. Thank you, assembly line. Cybercrime as a service is the same thing. You can have somebody that gets access to emails. You can have somebody that creates malware. You can have somebody that collects the ransom. You can have somebody that infiltrates the system and spreads across the network. You can have these different skill sets like an assembly line in crime. Cybercrime as a service. You can also be a general contractor and say, I want to go after this organization because something they did against me, and you can hire that out. It's possible to do that now. So AI is coming after you whether you've invested in it or not. I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm so sorry. From a risk perspective, both from a cyber perspective and an AI risk perspective, we're talking about different things and different ways it can impact a business. But in order to get to a business level, there's really, I would say, 5 different categories of how we think about risk and how we think about AI risk and security and how we can help measure it for our business leaders. Financial risk, that's often a thing that we talk about. What's this going to cost us to recover from this event or to protect ourselves from this event? What's going to be the financial impact? That's generally number 1 on the list. But number 2, operations. If we're a manufacturing organization or just as an example, and some sort of a cyber activity happens where it shuts us down, how is that going to impact our ability to operate? We can't operate. So there's also a financial impact from the operational impact and our ability to continue on. Strategic. If our data is stolen and given to nation states, other organizations, sold, whatever it is, it can disrupt that strategic impact. Reputationally, it can impact us. And then from a regulatory aspect, there's tons of regulations on this, but if you're in an industry such as healthcare, finance, Department of Defense contracting, there's very specific regulations on this kind of stuff. A cyber incident can affect you in all these ways, and as a business leader, you need to understand that. So when you're looking at risks and the impacts it can have, so you can compare and figure out where and how to spend your budgets, these are categories that you need to be looking at. How we doing? So we talked a little bit about these as well, but AI risks start with data risk, not the AI model itself, what data can happen to it. Confidential data leaking into the public. We talked about that a little bit this morning. Shadow AI. Users are going to use AI. So if we're limiting their ability to use AI, they're going to find a way to use it. I think there's something like 190 different AI models, and this is probably some dated information, available across the internet. How many in your organization specifically, how many of you block access to most AI and have just one or maybe 2 tools that employees can use? A number of you. If new AI models pop up tomorrow and people are starting to use them because they do, are they automatically blocked, or does somebody actually have to go in there and block that? Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It doesn't stop them. We had an issue where someone went on their personal computer, uploaded data, and because of the search stuff that we had going on from security, it was caught because it popped up in a model.
Yeah. So the data itself was caught in the model.
Right, because I can't remember the gentleman's name when he was sharing, like someone trying to download it.
Yeah.
They took data, sent it to a personal email, and then uploaded it to Perplexity, and it was not, enterprise, but
Yeah.
it's their personal account. Yes, so it was in the database.
Caught in that day. Thank you for.
Healthcare, so like, no.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, the point is, the way that we're detecting these risks, such as that, we're looking for the data. There's also tools that are emerging that can essentially allow access to all models, but limit the data. It's all, again, about the data. There's different ways to go about doing this that are advancing at a very rapid pace, new technologies, new controls. But it comes down to the data. People are going to use AI, and they're going to want to use the AI model that they like. So we have to limit the risk to the data. Agents acting beyond intent, we talked about that. But third-party integrations. Even if, again, back to the organizations that aren't all on board with AI, they're not early adopters, they're not adopters at all, they're just kind of doing what they're doing. if you're using tools, which you all are, of third parties, they're using AI. Do we know what controls they've put in their AI and what of our data as an organization it can access? Because that's another form of risk that we need to be looking at when we're looking at AI governance and risk. So a simple, high-level, 3-stage framework for AI adoption. Number one, and this is possibly the hardest, but often the most overlooked piece of securing AI, understand where it is. Understand where the AI is. If third parties, what you're using internally, what tools you're using, you have to know where the AI is. I read a stat the other day that in most enterprises, or excuse me, not most, let me rephrase that. The average enterprise now has over 150 different usages of AI in their organization. That's across a number of different tools. I was unable to credibly verify that stat. It's cited many places, but I couldn't get back to the original source. So I'll put that out there. I like to make sure my stats are credible. But I believe it. 150 different ways that AI is managed. And most organizations don't know all 150. So you have to understand where it's at before you can look at how we're going to govern it. So the other thing with governance is, do you think governance, the way that we're investing in AI, the way we're securing, what we're allowing AI to do, is that the responsibility of the technical team or the IT team to figure out how much we're going to advance, how much we're going to use it? No. That's a business decision that your business leaders, even if they're not AI or technology professionals, that's a business decision that we as technology folks need to understand how we're going to implement the desires and the direction of the leadership and boards. We need to have a seat at that table. But that is a business decision, not a decision from the AI team saying we're not, or the technology team saying we're not going to go down this path because I don't think it's a good idea. If the leadership wants to do it, we figure out what the risks are, make sure they're informed on the risk, and make sure that we have governance on it. And the governance at its core, we talk about, governance is talked about a lot, but it's the rules in which we're going to live by as an organization. Here's what's acceptable, here's what's not, and here's how we're going to do that. It's the rules that we live by. So once we understand where the AI is, where those risks are, then we implement controls. So once we understand our risk level, where it's at, now we start talking about those controls and the data and the users. And then ongoing, we need to sustain that. It's never, security as a whole is never a done thing. We're never at our finish line. We're up to the point where we're meeting a certain standard, but now we have to stay there. Threats advance, risks advance. It's an ongoing game to keep us where we're at. This is the NIST cybersecurity framework. How many people recognize this? A lot of people in the room. This, I think, is just a really good example, or a really good diagram of things that are changing. So the NIST cybersecurity framework's been around for a few years now, and it starts with the identify, which is knowing your assets, knowing your data, knowing the risks, understanding what's out there. Protecting, trying to keep the bad guys out. Detecting, if those fail, how do we understand if something's happening within our network? Responding if somebody gets in our network, and recovering. They added the sixth part, govern, which goes on the inner circle, probably 4 or 5 years ago. My sense of time gets really bad, where I think this is just a few years ago. It's been 10 years already. But the point is, govern sits at the center of all these things, and govern is the rules, again, in which we live by. But I want to offer that identify and protect have been our main focus for the past many, many years. That's been a priority focus. It's still important. We want to keep the bad guys out and the cyber criminals out. With the speed, we were talking earlier about the speed of 0 days and the inability to fix them before they're actually being exploited, we have to get really, really, really intentional about detecting and responding. It is not possible to keep all the cyber threat actors out. It's just not. It's getting easier and easier for the threat actors to get in, so we have to get better at when things fail, how do we detect that something's gone wrong, how they've got in, and how do we recover to minimize damage? So while this is still the framework, it still fits, we have to, I think our priority focus has to kind of shift from protect to detect. I mean, the whole purpose of this is we have an understanding across the board, but that detect and respond and recover are more important than ever in the age of AI and the speed of threats that we're dealing with. So from a leadership perspective, I mentioned that the technology team needs a seat at the table, but we don't dictate if the organization is going to invest, where they're going to invest, and the risk levels they're willing to take. So from an organization's perspective, and each organization is set up different, but the board of directors sets that tone. They're the ones that decide how aggressive or non-aggressive we're going to get with these investments. The oversight structure, they need to be responsible that when rules are implemented, how do they understand that these rules are implemented, the risk level we're at or not at, and where we're going. They approve that risk appetite, and they require that independent validation. So we might be required to administer some of this, but they are the ones setting the rules. The executive leadership owns the day-to-day responsibility of that. They need to drive a security-aware culture. They need to make sure that people don't say, these security people in this organization are just trying to make our jobs harder. I mean, we do make their jobs harder. Security in itself makes things a little bit harder to get at, which is its purpose. But leadership needs to set that culture at the top, saying this is who we are and this is important. They need to, if there's a regulated industry, mentioned finance, healthcare, Department of Defense, there's many others, but that regulatory piece, they need to be the leader of that, and they need to be the ones that building test those programs. Again, you guys are often responsible for implementing these, but they're the ones who set are essentially responsible for it. So either 5 questions to take back to your leadership team, or as a student, from your perspective, think about how you can help leadership with these questions. These are not easy questions to answer. But how often is your executive team or board updated on the cybersecurity roadmap or posture? From many of your seats, think about how do we get this information to them? What would be interesting to them? They don't need zeros and ones or bits and bytes. They need information that can help them make data-driven strategic decisions. Number 2, do we know our top AI and cyber risks specifically? Not just as an idea. We talked about shadow AI and things like that. How do we get a little bit more in depth specifically in our business with the top risks that we're looking at? How prepared are we for a major incident? And I put really, because oftentimes we go, yeah, we're prepared. Are we really prepared? How do we understand this? How do we prove this? How do we validate this? How do we measure this? So we need to get that validation rather than a generic, we're probably okay. Are we investing enough, too much, or in the right or wrong places, and how do we know? Oftentimes, and I hear this from a lot of business leaders, boards, and executives, they feel like each year cyber just asks for more money. They just want more money because we want to secure more. That's true. How do they know that those dollars are being spent correctly? We need to give them more insight into how we're coming up with these specific numbers. What kind of new threats are we dealing with that we need to be adapting to? What happens if we don't get the budget requests that we're asking for and the allocation that we're looking at? What's the consequences of that? Give them the data to help back up those decisions. And what guardrails exist before we adopt our AI any further? So if we're adopting AI, we're talking about the guardrails that we're putting in. The board sets the risk level, the aggressive level, or what we're doing with AI. And we need to implement that. So we need to train them on what guardrails we're putting in place from a little bit more of a technical standpoint to help protect their investment. So just a couple more slides. Here's some quick wins, and I think we're getting close to time. Some quick wins and some strategic moves. Quick win, inventory where AI is already in use in the business. I mentioned that for enterprises, there's always over 150 ways that most enterprises are using it. I inventory that. Access controls and multi-factor authentication. Even though 97% of those businesses that had their credentials hacked were using multi-factor, get it across the business and make sure you know where it is and where it isn't, so you can answer those questions specifically and then apply it where it needs to be. Complete an AI readiness security assessment. Sometimes it's hard to tell the trees from the forest when we're in it. I recommend getting a third party to come in and look at your environment to help either validate that the controls that you think are operating effectively, or that they can give you a window into gaps of where you need to look at. AI specific readiness. Refresh your employee awareness training that all your employees are taking with AI. And then long-term strategics, formal governance, that's what sets the boundaries. Bring in a vCISO, or if you have dedicated security leadership, great. If you don't, bring in somebody with subject matter expertise. That's the key on that one. And then continuous monitoring and incident response readiness to better detect, respond, and recover. So last things, these are re-hitting on what I've already talked about, but these are the three main points I want to leave you with. Adoption is assumed. We're using AI whether we want to be or not, and the cyber threat actors are as well. Understand adoption, it's assumed, so governance, accountability are the really competitive differentiators. If you want to expand, you want to be different, who owns it, and what are the rules in which we're going to live by? Accountability. Cybersecurity as a whole needs to be a business decision, not a technology decision. It needs to be owned at the board and executive level and implemented and worked on with you. And then confidence, the right guardrails lets organizations move faster. Organizations that have good guardrails, good confidence in their security are able to adopt faster, and not only just AI, but as a business. So set those guardrails. I believe that's my last slide. There's some contact information. And there's a QR code for the LinkedIn and the website for Seattle Data and AI. Again, Rick Olivier with Ide Bailey. Connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you have questions. I do have to leave a little bit early today. I'll be here for maybe another hour before I have to. I'm from South Dakota, so I got to fly back north. And a couple questions.
We have some time for questions.
Yeah.
One other question.
Yes.
So we are living in the world of open cloud.
Yep.
And, recently, I researched that Microsoft employees, about 11,000 employees are using open cloud at this time.
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of people are using open cloud.
Yeah.
So if you were to use open cloud, what do you use open cloud for? What do you don't use open cloud for?
Whew. I'm more of a business person, not a deep technical person. That's a great question. I would actually put that out to anybody else. The question was OpenClaw. Who's using it, who's not, and what do you use it for, and what's it not allowed for? Yeah, we have a. Oh, sorry. I don't use OpenClaw.
I go to install as discontinued, and I started building my own model.
Yeah.
So why Microsoft 11,000 people are using?
Yeah.
So
I'm not overly familiar with OpenClaw, so I apologize. I don't have a good answer for you on that. Yeah.
Mine's a business question. So with AI governance and business continuity, I feel like in the past, companies might meet once a year for business continuity.
Yeah.
Quarterly. Or organizations need to be more nimble.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen any frameworks yet of what the right best practice is.
That's a great question. So the question is, with business continuity and tabletop exercises and testing, what's the right practice? It was 5 to 10 years ago annually was the practice. And it's moved, I would say now quarterly, at least at a minimum. But I would go back to it's based on the size and complexity of the business. If you're a small business, and we'll just put a small business, anything under 300, I'd say quarterly is probably effective. For a bigger business, I think it even has to be broken down by departments and segments of how they're going to independently operate, and even having them do that at some sort of a quarterly interval, and then maybe a little bit higher level, maybe the same sort of interval, but at a different level. So I think it's quarterly is still what I'm seeing. Is that the right answer? I would say it's a business best practice. Is that the right answer? I don't know. That's where we're at. But yeah, I guess I would default to quarterly. Do you have a different opinion? I'd love to hear your thought.
Just like, I'm advising a few companies, and obviously there's innovation happening very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned if we're not meeting frequently enough.
Yeah.
Like the in between, like that continuous monitoring that needs to happen and inject. Like, you can't wait another quarter to have this discussion, right?
Absolutely. It's all this balance between not burning people out and thinking, oh my gosh, these paranoid security people, and having good security. Where I think quarterly is where we're at because of that. But yeah, there has to be other activities happening, maybe not tabletops, but specifically within the testing of that environment between those meetings. Thank you for that question. I think you had a question back here too?
My question is about the privacy policy that is applied to most of the LLM providers.
Yeah.
I was working years back with Copilot with OpenAI, and I clearly work with our legal team to make sure that they're not capturing the data that I'm feeding.
Yeah.
If I go to the doctor, I have to tell the truth, right?
Yep.
So if I'm asking person, I have to give the data.
Yep.
But what both the companies says, we do not use the customer data for training. We do not retain any data beyond your session.
Yeah.
Who is validating that statement, right? Okay, I'm done. As an architect, my job is done.
Yeah.
The policy, I'm good, right? Checkbox. Who is validating that statement? Are they really capturing? That's the enterprise domain. On the consumer domain, we're all vulnerable. Any data that's sent, none of the policy applies.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's kind of a half question, half statement that the privacy on a lot of these LLMs say they're not retaining or using any of the data that's part of them. Who's validating that data? Many of them have internal validation controls, but not necessarily third-party validation controls for the consumer. From an organization, I think we need to make sure that we're putting in our own controls to make sure that we're not sharing data, because I wouldn't fully trust that. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. He's asking, does Microsoft have third-party auditors coming in to validate the statement that they're not sharing that? I'm not sure of the answer to that. They claim that it's not. Again, I would go back to, we have to be responsible for our own data. If we're if what we're sharing, we don't know where it's going, we have to be very cautious of that. So we have to do our own validation internally of where our data is going. But as far as tools that are supposedly providing that, I don't know who's validating that.
I think we'll take that one last question there.
From your business perspective, how hard are you seeing convincing the upper management that are not technical?
Yep.
The importance of this and the cost associated with it. This is what we're facing now. We go to the upper management, tell them, hey, this is coming, this is here. They're like, we don't need that. We're good. That's a lot of expense.
Yeah.
Are you facing that?
Definitely. And if I can refine the question was about how do we convince upper management of the cost of these things, specifically with the cost of implementing AI for business use or the security controls to protect it? Both, yes. That's probably the number one question, is we're talking about leadership's involvement. How do we actually get leadership's involvement, especially when it comes to cost? What I'm seeing is that it varies from organization to organization, but I'm seeing across the board that most business leaders, want to get involved with AI. They want to incorporate AI, they want to launch it, but they don't really know how to use it. What I would say is you, as a team, you have to come together and put together a plan with how we're going to use it and how it's going to help the business. So starting with just just regular bots that we have today, and not jumping into AI, but starting with a small step at a time. But I think we need to lay that roadmap out so they can see what it means in time saving, what it means in better data, what that means to them from a business perspective. I think most executives are on board with figuring out if they can figure out what it's going to do for them, not just we need AI. The second thing is, I would say that the number one reason that executives would be resistant to AI is they're scared of it. They're scared of the security side of it. And we see that across the board. So we need to be able to come to them with an understanding of here's how we're going to make sure we're going to protect it. So we're going to put together this guidance. You don't need to be technical. We can be part of the team. Let's together put together what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with. Once we make those decisions, we'll put together specific strategies of how we're going to do that to get them comfortable. So the question is, do they want to do it? Yes, they want to do it, but we need to help them understand the ROI. Question 2, how do we get money for security? I'm seeing organizations that are very scared of it, so we just need to lay out a very credible case of here's what we're going to do and how we're going to use that money.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the lovely questions and for the lovely questions.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
After that insightful session, we get on to our next speaker, and I'm happy to introduce Carrie Munbaran. He's the AVP of Global Security at Sentinel-1. He brings the security operations perspective to the intersection of technology, automation, and threat response. In this session, we will look at how AI can enhance physical security operations through automation, detection, and response. Please join me in welcoming Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll wait for all the cyber folks to clear the space. I'm surprised this many are actually staying. Good morning. So you notice they put the security guy, the physical security guy, is the next thing you have on the schedule, I think, is lunch. So I hope you enjoy the next 3 hours of my presentation. And so I do want to talk about the other security. So I always say that we're not just badges and lunchbox checks, which is normally what you'll see in a physical security space. Or I like to call it the Dallas Global Security Tour celebrating diversity. So I think the physical security guy coming in, I'm the diversity hire for today. When you look at physical security, there's so much stuff that we manage in an organization. So it's not just the guard, it's not just the badges, it's not just the person at the front door that makes sure that you're wearing your stuff properly. We've got business continuity, emergency response, we've got global security forces, executive protection. It's a large umbrella that covers a lot of things, and there's a lot of places where cyber and physical merge, and we can create this enterprise of safety. Cybersecurity versus physical security. I did some studying before I got here. I was a little offended to learn to spell EDR, XDR, and API without Google. This is the physical security edition. Don't know what that meant. Also, when you look at cybersecurity, and you look up what is cybersecurity, these are the terms that come up. IAM, PAM, MFA, Wireshark, Metasploit, the Hive. I had no idea what that stuff was. I thought it was villains from a Marvel movie. And then you look up physical security, and it's a gate, a door, a lock. Nothing really exciting at all, right? But when you look at cyber is always depended on technology, as where physical security has always been about people and bodies and deterrence. More on the psychological, the fact of getting caught, instead of how do we actually prevent something from happening. When you look at the evolution of physical security, it hasn't changed in 2,000 years. So I had the opportunity, just got back from England, did a tour of England, Scotland, went and looked at some castles over there. When you go into a castle, they've got a moat. They've got a bent entrance, which is covered by bollards. They have something called a murder hole, which I thought was exciting. But when you look at a castle, it's all about deterrence. It's all about deter, delay, defend, right? It's access control. It's visitor management. It's protective intelligence. It's travel risk. We've all heard of Robin Hood and his merry men. So when you look at cyber, what we've tried to do is take some of these things from the physical security space and take some of the things from cyber and roll them into one. So the mission hasn't changed in 2,000 years. It's just the tools that we have available. Traditional PSOC, in my previous life, I worked at NORAD Northcom, Cheyenne Mountain, and it's exactly what you would think it looks like in there. So when you go into that building, it was 200 monitors, 200 operators, all getting different data, which looked amazing when nothing was going on. But when we had an incident, it was 200 people yelling across each other, trying to figure out what was going on and how to solve the crisis. Old systems approach in the traditional PSOC, siloed CCTV access. It's all reactive monitoring. It's disconnected sensors. It's different verticals, which leads to anyone familiar with the threat vulnerability formula, the traditional formula? So they say that risk equals threat times vulnerability times consequence. I came up with my own formula on this, which is the greater the time, the sadder your victims are going to be. So much easier to remember, but it's true. The one thing that is a constant that we can't change when it comes to incident management and response is time. That's a finite amount. The quicker we respond, the quicker we're able to mitigate threats. So physical security doesn't have a data problem. There's lots of data out there. It's a problem of attention. It's a problem with that individual operator that's collecting that data. Limits to some of the traditional security solutions, it's data, time, and money. It's too much data. When you look at video in the traditional sense, a lot of places where when I started out, no one even monitored the video. It was literally the place you went to go see who took your stuff after it was missing, or to go see how the fire started after your building burned down, right? Too much time. If you look at actually going in and monitoring data, the amount of time we spend reactively clearing false alarms, investigating incidents is astronomical. You'll have operators that are spending all their time doing these manual tasks from the data that we're collecting. And then too much money. Your physical security programs are not cheap. They think because it's headcount and it's not relying on technology, but when you add up all these hours, it's an extreme cost to the company. So why it matters now. We talked about the amount of data that we're getting. When you look at the processes and the things that we're bringing in, it's cameras, it's access control systems, it's role-based clearance, it's data from protective intelligence platforms. You can't continuously analyze all of it. They've done studies. One security officer sitting in front of a group of monitors can effectively watch 4 to 8 cameras. I disagree with that. You have problems effectively looking at one camera. And they've done studies where, look it up sometime, if you go on YouTube, the gorilla study, where they have a bunch of kids dancing, and then a gorilla walks across the middle of the screen and exits the other side. And then they'll ask, how many people saw the gorilla? And it's less than 10%. When I went in and looked at it, I had to go back. I'm like, there was no gorilla. And there was. The gorilla walked across the back of it. So it's hard to watch one screen effectively, much less 4 to 8. They say we're missing 45% of the screen activity after 22 minutes. 95% is overlooked. So where does AI fit in? I always like to say that cyber is not the only team that uses software in the security space. We've got our access control systems, our video management systems, visitor management systems, we got incident management systems. We're using just as much software as the rest of the company, plus all the software that the company is using as well. We're tied into the HR platforms, we're tied into the comms platforms. And what we're using AI for is to create this layer of intelligence to connect all these separate subordinate systems and manage them and collect that data and determine what's important for that operator. The physical security maturity model, I've seen different versions of this for cyber as well. But if you look at level 0, it's a manual process. It's literally that gate, that guard with a key who's visually checking you when you come into a space. It gets into tripwire alerts and perimeter cameras. I learned some trivia. The first tripwire camera was in the 1800s. Someone was stealing someone's eggs, and this guy made a tripwire camera in London and found out it was a plumber stealing eggs. So, you know, the automations and camera systems goes back over 150 years. You get into AI assisted, partial autonomy, where AI can create these incidents from the data that's coming in and send out these communications platforms, all the way up to high autonomy. I think that, you know, we're comfortable in my organization. We're at a 3. We've got a lot of stuff that's autonomous in the security systems, and then we've got a lot of human oversight and supervision. Level 4, you know, full autonomy. Anybody in here see RoboCop in '84? So that's my people, old people. But yeah, who remembers you have 10 seconds to comply? You know, do I ever think that we'll get to a point where all physical security is managed by AI? Probably not. You're always going to have that response force to physically protect and manage. But I'm happy at a 3.5, 3.6 maybe. From reactive to predictive to autonomous, if you look at the evolution, you know, it's events, it's alarms, it's reviews, and a human response. So that's that operator sitting at a desk. We've moved to AI assisted, where these events are coming in, AI is reviewing and analyzing, correlating that data, and we still have that human validation, and then which creates the response. And then getting up to multiple signals, where you don't have separate operators, 10 operators, 20 operators sitting in a space. You can have one AI bot that's watching everything all the time and notifying that security team. AI, vision intelligence, this is kind of where it's gone. This technology has dramatically improved in the last 5 years since I first saw it. It used to be, show me somebody in a red shirt, show me a white car. Now we've got our AI vision intelligence. We've got probably 200 different threat vectors that it can identify. Everything from a firearm, someone in a restricted area, someone jumping a fence. It'll do, in some regions, facial identification or recognition, secure assets, loitering. We keep finding new use cases for the systems that we've got. And then they just expand every day. So when you look at vision as a sensor and not just as additional data, it's not just something we go back and review after the threat or after the incident has already occurred. It actually becomes part of the prevention. So we can see it happen or happening before it actually occurs. Some of the tactical stuff that we're using it for now, protective intelligence and threat detection. We've got AI-assisted open source intelligent platforms that are monitoring global risk, news, open source data, social networks. There's products out there like Data Miner, Alert Media that are pulling this data for us, that are all AI driven. It sends it to us, correlates it, looks at our targets, so employees, assets, travelers. We pull that data from travel platforms, itineraries, your home of record, integrations with Workday and HR platforms, and then we can determine who's affected, what assets, employees, and then actually send out notifications. So we've got the capability now with AI, SMS messaging, Slack channels, Microsoft Teams, emails, and now even smart enough to make phone calls for us and call, and you get a bot or an agent that will call that person and tell them that there's a risk. AI-driven tailgating response. This is a huge issue. Every company has it. We've all been trying to solve it since probably that castle back in the day. Someone tried to sneak under the drawbridge with the other knights. I like to call it the "it wasn't me, I used my badge." That's every employee that you accuse of tailgating. But now we've got integrations between the cameras, our access control, our visitor management that correlates how many badge reads, how many people came in the space, can identify the person that badged and who didn't badge, and then send out a notification directly to the employee that badged. So we don't even get involved now. We don't watch it. The only way you could solve this problem before is to have a security officer sitting on every door watching every badge read. And I do like to point out, since we rolled this out at my company, we've had a reduction of about 90% in tailgates, from thousands a month to less than 100 on some months. So the human and AI operating model for us in physical security space, I like to say that we have job security, pun intended, for now, but it's a partnership of force multipliers. So we've got really good members on the security team that monitor and escalate, but we're using that AI, that integrated vision, the threat detection, the intelligence, automated responses, and then it's still human judgment to escalate and respond to incidents. So to us, the future of physical security isn't more cameras. It's not more alarms, more systems. It's not someone watching screens, which has always been the solution in the past. It's making the systems that we already have more intelligent, using AI to tell us what's important, tell us what matters, and give us the ability to respond. And ultimately, like I talked about, that time vector, increasing the amount of time it takes us to respond to an incident and act faster. And got you early. You can head to lunch. So, but any questions on physical security? Sure.
Can you do weapon detection?
We actually do have weapon detection. So the way weapon detection works for us is the AI in the camera system identifies a weapon. It notifies us immediately. It escalates it. You can have it call law enforcement as well.
Right.
For us, I get messages. I'll get an SMS. It goes to pager duty. My phone blows up like an Amber Alert. Siren goes off, and it actually is tied into our access control system, where it will confirm the weapon and then lock down the space.
And then second, autonomous machines as security guards?
I have a robot at my house, actually. So my previous company, we were one of the first ones to use robots in the physical security space for response.
What's the company?
There's a couple. So Cobalt Robotics was, yep. So Cobalt is who we used in the very beginning. In early Cobalt, it was, and honestly, even going back a few years ago, I remember probably 7 or 8 when the robots first came out.
Right. What's the
Night vision. Yep. So we call that the suicide bot. There's a good video of that one plunging into a pool in Washington, D.C. It fell into the water, but they've worked on the spatial orientation on that one too. But it used to be like you had a robot, but then you had a monitor that was sitting remotely watching it. And it's like, wait a minute, robotics is supposed to replace these things, not add to it. It should be a force multiplier. So now we've got where the robots are fully autonomous. It doesn't have that human operator monitoring in the back, but we use them for supplementary. If somewhere we don't have a camera, we use them during COVID. They had heat detection on When we couldn't go in the offices, we deployed robots everywhere. So mine in my house has got facial rec. It can tell me if the dog's eating. It sends me updates, what's going on in the house. It responds if it picks up a motion sensor, the robot will deploy, go to that area, look and see what's going on. And then if it's one of the kids or the dog set it off, it'll stand down and won't escalate. So, yeah.
My question is, you told about reactive autonomous security. Yes, right. So, what kind of security do you provide does not become an antivirus?
I missed the end of that.
Any security service you provide, at what point does it not become an antivirus? Because in reactive security or autonomous security, you are always having HIPL aspect, human in the loop. But if the human does not know what to do, at what point does it need to?
So just make sure I understood it correctly. At what point does human intervention, do we get humans involved?
At what point the human intervention is lacking and we need, the autonomous side to take over?
So where is human lacking and where do we need autonomous? To me, the biggest piece is video, right? So go stare at video cameras for 8 hours a day, multiple screens. It's impossible. They've already done studies on it. Like I said, they say 4 to 8. They're going to miss 90% of what they're looking at. It's actually probably higher than that. But I can tell you that with AI, we watch 100% of 1,000 cameras 100% of the time. The AI doesn't miss anything. It's picking up all of the breaches, the weapons detection, the loitering, the tailgating, 200 different threat signatures. There's no way a human would ever be able to do that. Yeah.
Follow-up question on that. So do you think a lot of the SOC analyst roles where like you're looking at surveillance and video monitoring and surveillance will be taken over AI within the next 5 years?
So the question was, do I think that a lot of the physical security SOC analyst roles will be taken over by AI? And I do. I think that when you look at physical security, you look at security guards, the attrition rate is anywhere between 50 and 300% a year, and that's globally. So it's a high turnover. Security guard is probably the lowest paid person in your office. And that's unfortunate. So I think we have trouble getting good people in those positions anyway. I think that the threats will always exist. We're still going to have that human oversight. We're still going to have someone that escalates and manages it. I think on the identification side, sure, like a lot of those roles will be handled by AI, but you're still going to have physical security. When I say physical, I mean like a person is the one that's going to have to go respond and remove whatever that threat is. So whether it's a tailgater or a disgruntled employee or whatever it is, right? So, yes, sir.
It's a three-part question. One, going back to like your robot that you have. Is it like the duration of your robot, like you're asleep at night, family goes sleep, is your robot still active and still in surveillance mode? And then two, as far as then your privacy, when it comes to data, your data being leaked to adversaries. And then the third thing is, sorry that it's three-part, but you mentioned about the human's inability to monitor a monitor, but however, the robot is 100%. So what are in a sense, the alerts or the triggers that are allowing you for this robot to be so active? Sorry, it's three parts.
No, that's all right. So I think the first one is easy. Are the robots 24/7, 365? And I'll use robots and our AI vision, our cameras overlay. The AI, I'll use those, in the same context. They're always on. So even the robot at my house, I can put it on guard or not guard. It's still going to identify things like fire. It's still going to identify floods. It'll still respond to those type of things. But at night, I can put it on motion. I can increase the threat level that I want the robot to be on. So to answer your first one. So yeah, all of them are 24/7. The cameras are always going to be on. They're always going to, we do set different threat indicators and levels on each individual camera. Some camera, I might be more concerned about tailgating or unlawful access. Another one, maybe not, right? So each one of those parameters can be set specifically for each individual space that you're looking at. Privacy for AI, I know we run into, I've been watching a lot of the stuff with the flock cameras now and, removal, because it's really not about privacy as much as it is the data and what do you do with that data after you have it, right? So I know for us, it's, our stuff is all internal, our systems are internal, our MVRs, our storage, our video is all internal. We're a global company. We've got offices we have to fall under GDPR or headquarters in California, which has pretty strict privacy rules. So all of that is managed, and we make sure that we're meeting compliance. And then, you've got legal oversight and privacy and other teams that are involved as well. So what we do with that data, my company maybe is different than what other companies are doing with the data, but, really it's all internalized. So it's not, and we don't share it. No one's going to come in and pull our video. So, and then what was the third question?
The third one is specifically on the robot's ability to monitor with higher efficacy than the human. And you showed, like I said, about 45%, 22 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Off the clock. I'm not saying it verbatim, but
Yeah, no, I understand.
the robot, you're saying it's 100%, 100%. So are there alerts, triggers, what are in place to be able to keep 100%?
Yeah, well, so if you think about it, each one of those cameras has its own individual agent that's watching and looking for threat signatures, right? So out of those 200 threat signatures that the systems can actually analyze, each one of those, think of that as its own individual that's watching that camera. Same thing with the robot. Now the robot's a rover, it's going around, but that data feed and the way that it determines threats or identifies threat signatures is exactly the same. So it's no different than a computer being able to do multiple math problems at the same time. So it's just looking for threat signatures. It's looking at that video, determining if there's anything there that you've identified that you want to be made aware of. And then from there, it's just the escalation process. When we look at incidents, and it's kind of interesting, working at a cybersecurity company, an AI cybersecurity company, when we built the program, I was the first security hire there. We wanted to follow the process that they use in cyber. So, cyber incidents, maybe no one gets notified. It doesn't escalate, right? It takes care of itself, or it determines that it's a false positive. We look at each individual office, each region, the type of incident it is, the proximity to our assets, our employees, our spaces, and then that's what determines the notification and escalation process. And everything from, we're using AI to identify an IDF room that's overheating. So we've got sensors in there that are tied into the AI. It will create an incident. It'll notify us. It'll take a picture with the camera, but that'll go to the IT team. It'll go to the facilities team. As where, weapons, we talked about, weapons detection. Everybody needs to know about that, right? So it's all based on the type of incident, the location, the severity, and then what assets are in place that we need to protect. So.
Okay, we have one more question here.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wrote mine down. Thank you. By the way, this is very insightful. You said physical security isn't a data problem, but an attention problem, right? Since AI is data-driven and increasingly automates response, how do you ensure it reduces the attention burden without removing the human oversight needed for high-risk decisions?
So the question was, how do we, because we talked about the data and how it's not that we don't have enough data, it's too much data coming in. So how does AI help us manage that data and ensure that the escalations are handled appropriately, correctly?
You know, to kind of eliminate false positives.
False positives, right. So if you look at a camera and you watch a single camera for 8 hours, you may have 7 hours and 55 minutes where nothing happens at all, right? So that's where human attention starts falling off. Then you do miss things, right? You look away for a second, and I've seen it happen 1,000 times where that 1 minute the operator looked away, grabbed a drink, did whatever, something happened, right? It's Murphy's Law. The AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't miss the threat signature. It's not going to go get a drink. It's going to watch everything all the time. Now, 99.9% of the time, there's probably nothing happening on that particular view that it's watching or any other data coming in, because it's not just video, it's all that data. But it's not going to miss that 1%. And then that's what it'll escalate. It also, there's correlations for false positives or false alarms. When you look at door forced open alarms, we get a lot of those in the physical security space. Sometimes it's caused by overpressure in a building. You turn the air conditioners on, it makes the door wobble, and we get an alarm. With AI and integrating the camera systems, now we can get that door alarm, which traditionally you would have had to have an officer respond, pull up the camera, look at that door, see that there was nothing on it, go back, review video to make sure that he didn't miss somebody coming into that space while that door was showing forced open, and then probably go down, do a sweep, walk around the space, and see if anyone came in. With our platform now, if we get a door forced open alarm, the camera, the alarm system, the access control system is what triggers that alert. The camera system will go in at the same time, simultaneously, it's reviewing the video, and it's like, wait a minute, that door was never opened. So if the door never opened, but you got an alarm and there was never any people that came by, it's probably a false alarm, right? So if you think about how many of those you get in a day, and it's actually hundreds of them caused by someone slamming a different door, an overpressure, or you can get them from a door when you close it, it bounces a little bit, and that'll cause another alarm for us. All of those are eliminated. So I've worked in big data centers where you had a person who spent their entire day just responding to door forced open alarms and calling on a radio and getting a guard to go down and check the door and make sure that it was actually secured. Now all of the systems will tie in together and prevent that from happening using the AI overlay. So.
Brilliant, Kerry. Thank you very much. We're just out of time. Thank you.
How many in here want to be physical security? That's what I expected. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, after that fantastic interactive presentation, I should say, Kerry, I take this opportunity to thank, first of all, you all to having come here, UTD for hosting us here, the speakers, the panelists, the volunteers. We're all part of a team that has put this together. Thank you all very much. We now invite you to join us for lunch, and followed by lunch, we'll have our afternoon sessions spread over 4 rooms in all. So if you're not sure of which room the sessions that you want to attend to are, they'll be marked outside. Plus, we have a volunteer team who can help you with guiding you to the right rooms. So please join us for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.